And welcome back to ScavTalk, everyone. In today's episode, we got an exciting episode in store for you guys. I'm really hyped about it. But first, we got to do the news recap. BSG is doing some changes that they recently announced. And we'll also go over some of the armor buffs that they did not too long ago. And then I got an interesting topic about sensitivity and visibility of Escape from Tarkov. And then finally, we're going to close out with me and Giga's top 10 weapons for patch 12.13. Giga, how have you been doing, man?
Good. I think it's actually just patch 13 now. I don't think the 12. I think the 12's
gone.
Right. It's been 12
you
for so
correct.
long. We had like 12, 12, 12, 12, 30, 12 this, 12 that. I think it's all gone. No, I'm doing good. I'm doing good. We've finally reached levels. So I've really slowed down in progression because I've been spending a lot of time doing YouTube stuff and other various things, life just getting in the way. So I've got to level 36 now. I'm like within scraping distance of Peacekeeper 4. And I find it. I think it probably would have been faster if I'd just done normal quests, but I wanted any excuse to play Streets of Tarkov, and then my weekly rolled around, and I had 18 survives on Streets as my weekly. So I was like, all right, so we basically spent the entire week playing Streets for 50k XP, which is like, it's a decent amount of XP. It's, probably 3 good quests or 5 to 6 very average quests, something along those lines.
Okay.
And you get XP for playing those raids as well, clearly, but I don't know whether it really makes sense sub level 46 to do those weeklies sometimes. Like that's a lot of survives.
I
mean, I was playing quite carefully, so it didn't take too long. We probably I didn't go like super hyper rat style, but we were anytime that we were able to just take the exit, we just did because we had to rack up quite a few, right? So I did probably about 6 per stream over about a 3.5 hour period on Monday, Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday, and then completed it on Thursday. So that was good. It probably took me about like 26 raids or 27 raids. I think I probably died in about 7 of them, 7 or 8 of them, and then survived the rest, which is not bad. It's like a good sort of 70% survival rate or something. And had some fun fights in there as well. So it wasn't too bad. But I'm liking Streets more and more, especially after understanding the map and like knowing where you need to go and how to leave and things. Like some of the common pathways are becoming much more obvious now, like how to move from one side of the map to the other. It's like those things that you only figure out after you've really beat your head against the wall for a while, which is good.
Yeah,
it's really coming into its own. And been using one of the guns that I've been enjoying a lot, which will clearly be in the list later on. And I'm just about to put out a video about it, the AK-101, again because it's just such a beautiful gun. Been doing that, but been moving on to thinking about some other things as well. Kind of the next question on my mind is like, what now? After 5601, so that's I haven't really come to a conclusion yet, so I'm still ruminating about that. But that's sort of where I am now. I want to get to Peacekeeper 4 because then I can easily do all the gunsmithy stuff, and it just once you level 37, it just becomes easier. I'm a bit worried about this Fur Franz thing from one of the later gunsmiths. I'm just like, let's get there, please, so that it gets locked again. Have you been progressing? You've been playing, or you've been just contenting?
I did play a little bit. I'm on Punisher Part 4. I had a weird craving to go shoreline and do some questing. Like that's a weird, I mean, it's like a pregnant woman wanting pickles or something. Like it's just one of those weird cravings. But I ended up just doing that, and I got to play like 2 raids before I did some more sciencey stuff. But anyway, I'm looking into some sensitive stuff, which we'll talk about later. But that's kind of it for me as far as progression. I'm like still 28 or something, and
okay. Quite nice to take it slowly though.
Yeah, it's more content. It's just you stretching out the content. But speaking of content,
yeah,
BSG put out a tweet.
Yes,
which shout outs to them for communicating updates, future updates, and not leave us in the dark. I like that a lot. Because this is not a live update, if I'm not mistaken.
Right? Yeah, exactly. This says so. It's an estimated plan of the changes, fixes, and improvements. And they did post one of these before, so I guess this is a follow-on to that, which is nice. And it doesn't say when or anything, and it doesn't even give a patch. It's not like, oh, we're doing a technical update tomorrow and some of these will be included. It's just random. And so we've got This actually I thought was going to come with the patch. The reworked and improved the player group system. I thought that was actually coming with patch 13, but I guess it wasn't ready. Well, I think a lot of people thought it was going to be there, so that you don't have
That's
to
right. I kind of
party
forgot
up
about
every
that.
time, right? I think this is the idea. You don't have to group up every
Yeah.
time when you leave a raid. You don't have to rejoin a party.
Right. Right.
Every time you leave a raid, you're still grouped up together, like basically every other modern multiplayer game in existence since like 1998. You know.
Yeah.
But so there's that. The new version of DLSS, I don't know what that really involves, to be honest. Do you know? Do you know what this involves?
It's hard to say because it could be DLSS 2 points, whatever, which is like less ghosting. I don't know. I haven't kept up. Like I remember seeing that some time ago. I had to look it up, but like I was using DLSS recently and like it felt really good. So I kind of think we're on that version, but I don't know. But it could be if it's not like some, DLSS 2 point whatever or 3 point whatever. I don't know what they're on, but it could be fixing the 1Xs on picture in pictures, which would be huge.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that most people had spoken about. When I was just reading through people's comments on the thread, people were like, "Oh, what about the 1X thing?" Because it's like super blurry, right? I haven't played with it enough to figure it out and actually see it. Maybe it was because everything looked kind of weird to me anyway when I used it last time, but like I didn't really notice. But everyone's, "Oh no, it's just like super terrible inside the one times." I'm like, maybe I guess. Like I didn't play around with it that long, and I was combining it with the DLDSR thing. I was doing like the chipper wubber strategy.
Are you still doing
And
that?
so no. I turned it off ages ago. But back before, I need to redo it with my new CPU because I used to get really terrible picture-in-picture frame rates, like way worse than before. And the place where I wanted, this is the thing, right? So before, when I was on my old CPU, every map worked fine except for Lighthouse, and Lighthouse was bad, and Lighthouse picture-in-picture was really
Right.
quite god awful. When I did the this like DL, what the hell even is it? It's a DLDSR in the
Deep
NVIDIA control
learning.
panel.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then DLSS in the Tarkov settings.
Right.
That combination then made Lighthouse run well. Picture in picture was still awful.
Yeah.
And then picture in picture then was ruined on all the other maps for me as well. So I was like, well, this is actually just like, this is now just worse. Now the whole rest of the game is awful with picture in picture. So I turned it off and never went back. After getting this new CPU, I really think I should go back and have a look at it. I need to look at some other settings. There's loads of things that I need to still do, right? It's just getting the time to do it. Like I need to actually look at, there's like there's a program that like tweaks the clock on the 5800. You can like underclock it slightly, and it actually ends up like giving you more performance because of like this various like weird stuff.
I wonder if that's what because I did undervolting, and
that's the one.
Yeah, and it's kind of cool with the Ryzen CPUs because they have like a target clock they want to hit, and if you lower the voltage on the all cores, you can do individual cores, but we'll say the whole CPU cores, they'll still boost up to that target performance. So like normally, like with Intel's, you could say like historically when you undervolt, it's mainly to reduce temperatures. Like you lose performance, and you also gain in like a cooler CPU, right?
Yeah.
But with the Ryzen ones, they still boost up to those clocks. But it's like if there's like a relationship, it's kind of like you move down the curve, but it still like boosts up in a sense. It's really cool. So you end up the CPU still ramps up to like 1.2 volts or whatever, but it gets a higher frequency because of that it's like set to run base at a lower voltage. Anywho, it's some magic shit. I did that. I matched my RAM speed with my Infinity Fabric clock speed, which is like the Ryzen Infinity Fabric. Like supposedly that's supposed to be a good thing you can do in certain scenarios. So I tried that, and then I tried the DLS or DSD deep learning
DLDSR.
yeah, deep learning super sampling upscale resolution 3000 NVIDIA graphics, something like that, right? I did that with the DSS or DLSS, whatever, and I tried on streets, and it made the game look nicer, and I got about the same performance. Okay. So, and offline. And I tried an online raid, it was about 70 FPS as a scav. So I think when it comes to streets, I think you need an 8-core CPU, a graphics card that can, run the resolution you want to run, and will that would probably be that. And then you need 32 gigs of RAM, and that's like the bare minimum for like playing Streets and streaming above 60 FPS. I think that's like the threshold. I just come to that conclusion. I could maybe do some more tweaking stuff, like fine tuning the memory clocks and the timings, get those timings, and then playing with the voltage in each individual core. But it's just like, God, who's got the time to spend 4 or 6 hours just to get like 3% more performance? It's like I'm just gonna wait till the a year, and the 30 or the 5800 X3D is $200 or something, 250. I'll probably buy it.
Yeah, I think somebody was saying that they were on offer, though there was like a sale on actually.
They were. I was tempted, recently. But it's just
you were tempted. Okay. Well, when the new series comes out, then they'll probably get cheaper.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
People are upgrading or whatever. Maybe you can even get one second hand or something. Who knows?
It's true.
But yeah, I mean, all of that stuff, like, it's one of those things that I'm not like up to speed on it, so I have to like learn every time I like. And I look pragmatically, right? It's like one of those things that I just don't. I'm not proactive with this stuff, and I'm just like, see people talking about it. I'm just like, oh, what is this thing? And just have a look into it. And like, I've never done like RAM timing matching or anything like that. Right? I've done some basic overclocking like way back in the day, but I'm just one of those. It's one of those things. Like maybe I get lazy though too. So when I'm just like, you stick the new CPU in, and you're just like, oh, it runs Streets at like 80 FPS. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to play the game now. Like I'm not gonna.
I think there's I think there's like some small things you can do in general that like help. There's like diminishing returns, you know what I mean? Like it's like you spend an hour and like you get more performance, or you could spend 4 hours and get a little bit more performance, you know what I mean? But
I want to try this Undervault tool, because apparently that's quite easy, so I might actually try that at some point.
It is. I would look into it, because I'm not sure if the 5800 3Ds are like
what I read, people were doing it, so I think it's doable, but I don't know. I'll have to think about it at some point. So that's DLSS anyway. So I'm intrigued. I mean, the thing is, I guess like the crux of it was when I did try it out originally, and we did speak about this a long time ago when I first looked at it, but the main takeaway for me from the combination of doing this this upscaling and then DLSS and then putting it back onto your normal res was that and I think Chipper says this in his video, the anti-aliasing effect that you get from doing that is way better than the AA in the game. Yeah, so even if you're using like the top AA, it's just nowhere near as good as upscaling it, getting the image with it's like small, it's fine details. It's things like power cables and the suspension bridge and the distance on lighthouse and like that stuff.
I mean, this is what I do with a lot of the videos that I upscale. Is it the deep learning super sampling upscales the image via AI, and then it downscales it back to your resolution, and then you overlay DLSS on there. So it's like you got so much like fine precision. It's like you're adding detail where previously you couldn't possibly add detail. Like it's actually really smart, and you're using your CUDA core, or not your CUDA cores, your RTX cores that you were idle. So it's like you're kind of like missing out on not using that. Like it makes a lot of sense. The main issue I had with it was for streaming my second monitor. It's like things would like shift away. Like my chat, like it would just move on back to my main monitor. I'm like, and I couldn't get it all. It was so annoying to mess with. I just was like, and it really, the game looks amazing, but I really didn't necessarily gain any performance that I could see in my limited testing. So
when there's painful fringe benefits, then
yeah.
So the next one, the one I'm most excited about, to be honest with you, improvements to Oculus Audio reduce the performance impact of the binaural sound system, improving sound positioning on all locations. Who knows what this is going to do? I mean, they're just going to keep working on audio, right? There's so many things to fix and repair, whatever. Like by far the single most annoying thing for me. I actually can almost, if I could pick one thing, and it's something I don't really see people complaining about that much, and I find it crazy. I would actually, rather than fix the bullet snapping thing, first over the positional audio. Like positional audio, using the landscape cues and stuff, you can sort of figure out maybe where people are. Like sometimes front back is like confusing.
Turning
You
your
don't really know.
head
You can turn your head and stuff. Like there's things you can do. The bullet snapping, dude. Oh my god, I feel like I'm under attack all the time. It's horrible.
What's crazy is I watch people and it's like they're getting shot at and they don't even react to it. It's like, oh yeah, I'm not getting shot at. It's just like, how do you know? Like, it's just crazy.
It's crazy. Again, like from that, you can sort of know sometimes because of the environmental factors. You're like in a room or you're like underground in reserve or something, and there's like snapping sounds. You're like, I'm in a room with one door, underground. Like there's just no possible way that that sound is coming towards me. So sometimes you know that, but like if you're walking around outside, like it could be freaking anywhere. You could be getting shot from like wherever. And it's just that I hate that. I really hate that more than anything else. It's like one of the most classic sound cues that you are under attack. It's like very, very important. And it really disturbs me because it's quite it's almost like it's got that kind of jump scare factor to it as well. You know, the bullets coming past you. You know, hearing someone's one thing and having bullets coming past you is another. I actually think that's worse. Like that really does annoy me. So I really hope that they manage to fix that. And then obviously do the other stuff that they need to do for the positional stuff. So.
I would say there's definitely that's the top of my list, as well as like there's something to do with like multiple walls. Like you just don't hear people. Like the occlusions are really kind of weird. I mean, I don't know if you've seen One Pig's videos on a couple different stuff, but that's really rough, man. And then the transition between, you know, where it doesn't occlude and then does occlude is like harsh and delayed. So because Steam Audio was actually very smooth. Like I can testify playing on Tarkov SP where it still uses Steam Audio. It's very smooth, you know. Yeah.
That's actually really interesting, being able to go back and
it's so
reuse the old model.
It's so weird too because you get some of the Steam Audio bugs, like the pop-ins and stuff, and it's like, oh wait, that's like it's like, you know, you unlearned a certain learn trigger to ignore, and then now it's like re-triggering, so it's like, you know, throwing your senses all off. It's so weird.
Yeah, that is weird. That is super weird. Okay, so the next one, fix the majority of the causes of invisible players in raids. They already said this one time, but it wasn't. They said they fixed the main cause of invisibility, but the implication was that it was still going to happen.
Right.
I had my first encounter with the invisible bug this week, which is kind of interesting. It was me who was invisible.
Oh, interesting.
I don't think it was. I think so anyway. But basically, I fought a team of 3, and one of the guys was just like, "Bro, you not there." He like bust, and I said to chat, I was like, "This fight feels really weird."
Yeah, Giga's like sweating. They're just like walking around.
Well, it's actually going to be. I didn't actually end up putting in that like section of me talking in the video, but it's going to be in the 101 video. And the first guy like jumps out the door and is just like, we're both having this firefight. And the second guy wanders out like that meme, you know, with just like he's like, huh? And then I just like, I'm shooting him, and then he's just like running around like crazy. It's like so weird. But apparently one of the guys, and it's interesting. It was the guy who has the terrible PC, so loaded in right at the end. I wasn't visible on his PC, but for the other 2, I was visible, which is kind of strange. So like the fact that re-logging in, so if you DC it, if you just Alt F4 and then re-enter into the game, that fixes it. It almost implies that there's something happening. Like if you take too long to load in, certain players, there's some like hook or trigger or something that enables the rest of the character to load, but there's something that's missing, and so that player is just completely like not visible to your client for whatever reason, and then nothing ends up happening with that player. You can still die to them, obviously, but they won't make any sound. You can't see them or anything. It's like super weird. So I thought that was quite interesting, but I wasn't sure whether they were telling the truth or not, because they came in my chat. I was like, oh, this is like kind of funny. I wonder if they're just like trying to bait me into fighting the rest of the squad or something. But no, I mean, I have no reason to not believe them. And it felt really weird at the time. I actually said like, this fight feels really strange. I don't understand. Like I didn't get hit, so I was like, oh, this is like, what's going on? This is bizarre.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was that. So hopefully they can fix that. I mean, I don't think there's anything really to comment on that other than just fix it, please. It
Yeah,
seems weird.
yeah, it's tough, man. Not only do you have
Yeah.
trouble hearing people, but now you may have trouble seeing people. It's
Yeah.
like the worst of yeah.
Yeah, I do remember that in the olden days there was the invisible scavs thing where
Yeah,
randomly you'd just be getting shot at by scavs, like some server was bugged or whatever, and you'd just be taking damage from a random scav that didn't exist and stuff. So things like that have happened from time to time. But anyway,
for whatever reason, it does seem worse this patch, but
yeah,
I'm sure
exactly.
they'll get it all squared away
Eventually,
eventually.
we'll see. So the next one's kind of interesting. They've reverted the mechanics of the quest reward skill calculation as it was before patch 13. Now this is kind of interesting because I thought that this was a change that they had made purposefully. So what this refers to is any quest where it gives you skill levels on completion. So the most notorious examples of this are obviously the ones that give you sniper skill, because we usually fine tune to get to level 9 sniper skill, because that's the one that you need for Kappa, because you need to complete Psycho Sniper, which is level 9. I think there's now another one. I think the Lightkeeper quest means that you need to get to level 10, I believe. So if you did want to complete everything, then you still have to go one more level. So it's kind of back the way it used to be. But you get 3 from Mentor from Peacekeeper, you get 1 from Shooter Born in Heaven, you get 1 from Target of Shooter Part 8. But what happened this wipe is that rather than giving you a level, it was giving you like a set amount of XP. So if you, I can't remember how much it was. It was like 70 or something like that. So if you were anywhere up to, actually maybe it was less. Maybe it was less than that. I'm not sure now. It was giving you a set amount of XP. So if you were, I don't know, only like level 5 or something, that it was taking you to level 6 and 3/4 or whatever, rather than giving you three full skill levels if you did Mentor. And I thought that the intention of this, because I did read this from somebody, and I was like, oh, that kind of makes sense. I thought that the intention of this change was to prevent people cheesing the like progressional ordering of the questing. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, you need
Yeah,
to get, like, you need to use the quest rewards to get the last levels, because they're the hardest levels to
right,
get.
right.
And you need to get regular skill XP to get to level 4 or 5 or whatever. And then you just use the quests to boost the rest through,
Yeah,
because of the, it goes 20 or 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 to go up those different levels.
right.
I thought that was the intention. Apparently not. Apparently it was just a bug. They changed the UI so that it did actually tell you what was going to happen before they fixed the actual bug. Because these days now it says like you will get 0.7 of a skill level or something. So depending
Right.
on your level of sniper, it now tells you that you're only going to get 1.8 points if you complete Mentor or whatever. And that depends on your level. So they did that so that it wasn't misleading. But now they're reverting it back and putting it back the way it was. Who knows how this got caused in the first place? But I thought it was intentional, but yeah, apparently not.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I kind of assumed it was a bug, but again, the theory you presented was a pretty sound theory in my book. Sounds like something they may do.
Yeah,
So
exactly. So don't hand in any of those quests still. Don't hand any until they fixed it. We don't, like, this isn't fixed yet, and there's no timeline on when this is going to be done. So hold off on unless you really need to, or unless you have an alternative way of getting that XP and you don't really care. Then just hold off on handing in any of those Shooter Born in Heaven, Target for Shooter Part 8, Mentor, blah blah blah. Unless you really don't care and you're going to get the sniper skill some other way. Yeah, hold off on that for now. Fix the fence reputation calculation for killing Zwachi and Scars. I'm not even sure what the issue was, to be honest. Maybe you didn't get a negative, or maybe it was too much, or maybe it was too little. I don't really know.
next
No
one,
clue for that.
fix for icons and visibility of loot, ammo attachments, and the trading and stash interfaces. Okay, maybe it's like the visual bug where it's like a bunch of like destroyed pixels where
Yeah, you
the
get this
item
like
should be.
it's like grey, like blurred out
Yeah.
weirdness on stuff. But okay, various fixes, weapon animations, frozen hands after using medicine. I actually had this after, and I had a bunch of lag. I got it was partly my internet and partly the packet loss, like desync on streets. And I
Mhm.
was in the middle of using a car first aid kit, and it
Ooh.
never finished. It just went on forever, and the guy was just like bandaging, and everyone was just like mummification in chat. It was quite funny, but I had to like lie down behind something and then Alt F4 and then come back in,
Yeah.
because I literally just like infinite medical animation. So that did actually happen to me. So that is quite interesting. And then, yeah, fix the possibility of Zavachi still attacking players, even with an active transmitter. That sounds incredibly frustrating, doesn't it?
It does. It does.
Not that any of us are really going to ever get to Lightkeeper, so who cares?
Yep.
So I think that's that. Bug
Mhm.
fixes really, they're the most welcome things. Maybe I'll fiddle around a bit more DLSS, but yeah, it's just yeah, it's good. I like the fact that they're giving these little roadmaps. It's a nice change of pace.
Yeah, for sure. Don't stop doing that, please. I
Exactly.
love it.
Exactly. Yep. So the other changes then. So the armorers. What do you think about the armor
Mhm.
changes? So what do we get this time? We got this time we got the Zabralo and the big Thor, the big level 6 Thor, and then the Reduce T5. So this comes off the back of a few other changes
Right.
last time. Did we? And which I think we spoke about before,
We
didn't we?
did.
I believe. Yeah. So
Most likely.
yeah. So the Thor, and I did do a video on this,
Yeah.
like with my thoughts on it, but the Thor armor already got buffed once,
Mhm.
and so this is the second buff. The Reduce T5 was like matched by the Gen 4 full in the previous update. So now the Reduce T5 is again number one. And the Zabralo now is like crazy.
Yeah.
If you can not get shot in the head and not get leg metted, the
Oh,
Zabralo will
yeah.
protect you like an absolute beast. It's it's it really is quite something. It
Yeah.
really is quite something.
I
Like I was surprised.
Yeah, no, Zabralo. I think Zabralo is insanely good. I would run it if I could. The T5, I would also run depending on pricing because it's a barter. I think they need to reduce the price of the other armor. I don't even know what it's called.
Yeah,
The Thor. Like
The
it's in such a
Thor.
weird. Like it's good, I
Yeah,
guess, but it needs a. That's kind of the thing. Is like I like that they're buffing some of these armors, but like some of them, like because I watched your video too, and like economically, a lot of them are just like, yeah, this makes 0 cents. It doesn't like it needs to be buffed like 5 more times before it ever makes any sense. You know?
yeah. 420 rubles, too much.
Yeah.
The meme number, but it's too much. It's too much money. Because the Zabralo, there's about like 4 different barters for the Zabralo, and the cheapest one is like just over 300k, I think.
Can you
And
buy it with
it's
rubles also?
no, you can't.
Okay.
But they're all barters, but there's like
Yeah.
there's 3 ways of getting it. And it's just straight up better than the Thor. I mean, there's a little bit of extra move speed that you get from the Thor, but for the price is the wrong way around. It should be the Thor should be, let's say 300k, I think, and then it would be maybe a choice that you might want to make. The amazing thing about Zabralo, and I'm just going to triple check that this is actually true and that I'm not wrong on this before I say, but let me just get my little information on the list here. Yeah, so the crazy thing about the changes that they did with the move speeds and stuff is that the Zabralo now feels like it actually is slightly better. It feels like the Corund used to
Which is
in
crazy,
move
right?
speed. It's nuts, right? And the Corund, like, it felt a bit sluggish.
Yeah.
It felt a
You
bit
could feel
sluggish. You
it.
could feel it, but it was okay. It was
Right.
manageable. Now the Zabralo feels like that. Like,
Which I
you
mean,
know,
I think, man, if you get like enough points, like level 10 is kind of that sweet spot where you want to be, because then anything past that, it's going to be 100 points, which is going to take forever to level up. Because when you're leveling your skills, it's always like 10 points is level 1, 20 points is level 2. It's very linear until you reach level 10, where it's 100, and anything else past that is always 100. Level 11, 15, 13, blah blah
yeah.
blah. So at that point, I think once you get level 10,
You're talking about heavy armor skills
heavy armor
specifically.
skills specifically, yeah, I would like start leaning towards trying to run these. Like specifically, probably the T5 Redut. Because the
Yeah,
barter's
that
pretty
was pretty
good
good
on it,
though.
right?
It's quite cheap, right? It's always been quite cheap because
That's
it's
the
like filters and
thing.
power chords.
And I mean, it's yeah. I kind of think this. And if you ever do get to max, what's it called? Heavy vest skills. The perks on it are really good. You're reducing the movement speed by like 25%, I think. The
Yes,
penalty.
so that would take it to about 13 move speed, negative 12, 13 on the Zabralo.
Pretty good. I mean, that's where we used to be, because I think it used to be like 35 or something, or
It was
36.
basically double. Yeah, it was
Yeah,
35.
it's crazy. What was I gonna look up? Oh yeah, skills. I forget what the elite's skill is. I know it's
Just have
something.
it up. This is the do not apply don't apply wear during a repair. 50%
Right.
chance. And the other one, the chance to deflect a bullet from heavy armor. Like we still don't know what that actually means.
That just sounds busted. That's all yeah.
Sounds like it
We
gets
could
a
probably
ricochet
figure it
chance.
out at some point.
Sounds like it gets ricochet.
Yeah, which is just like, dude. I mean, the light vest one. Some people, I think, like Rengar was saying, it's really good in his opinion. I don't know. Like to me, it doesn't sound that good. Body parts covered by light armor are immune to bleeding, which like typically light armors they usually are like chest only most of the time. Sometimes you get stomach as well, but there is no light armor that covers arms. So like, but you're immune to bleeding. But like, the bleeds like a light bleed is like, I think it's like 0.35 like damage, like HP per second. Like it's so minuscule. The heavy bleed you kind of need to like, you need to deal with at some point. You can pop a Propital to basically negate it, more or less.
Basically.
So
I was just going to do a quick fact check because I was like, I wonder if that's actually true. There is a light armor with arms protection.
Oh, really? Oh, it's going to be
I
the
wasn't aware.
Osprey.
It's the Osprey.
Yeah,
it doesn't have
about
stomach. I know.
That might be okay. The Osprey of light armor max. Yeah, that might be okay.
It might be okay because then you don't get any arm.
That's probably what they were talking about.
Maybe.
If I remember correctly now. But anyways,
yeah, as you say, and that goes up to minus 30% on the move speed.
Yeah, but it's bonuses, like they're already light to begin with. Like, who cares if I'm taking a 30% reduction off 3%? It's like
the worst possible move speed on light armor now is 9.
It's gotta be the Osprey, isn't it?
The Osprey is 8. The worst one is 9, and that is the Untar, the blue level 3.
Okay, yeah. I don't know why that one's so bad.
I don't know.
The turn speed's pretty bad too.
Yes, minus 6.
Yeah,
but, I mean for light armor it sucks. But it's low, right? So the best that assuming you're running the Osprey at 8%, so it's going to be so you're going to be 2.4% move speed off of that. So it'll be 5.6 rather than 8%. I mean, I don't think you're really going to notice.
Yeah. Anyways, I've been trying to level up. Hey, Vez, I think I'm on like 4 right now, but eventually
level 4. Okay.
Yeah, no, it's hard. It's because I don't know how you level it. Sometimes it's not reliable. If you repair armor too much, it doesn't level up. Blah blah blah. If you don't give repaired enough points, it won't level up. So you really gotta I think cheesing it. Basically just throwing rubles at the problem is how you would level it. Additionally, you need stash space as well to be efficient with your time. So
yeah,
it's kind of one of those like late things you can grind out, which I think Rengar did the light vest one that way, and he was like, 10 million rubles later, however much it cost him, he got it.
Yeah, because there's like 2 guys in my Discord who have been doing light vests as well. And again, they've just been like buying from Fence. They've been buying the 6p2, I think, the class 2 light vest, and just repairing that over and over. But like, I don't know anybody that's got heavy yet. I haven't seen anybody with like heavy elite because it's so much harder.
Yeah, there's a lot less. Like
they're just more expensive as well. Like there are no class 2s that are heavy vest. You've got to get you got to find them on Fence too, right? There's just there's just less of them. There's the 6p5 Ulay. That's the class 3 rig that you can buy, the first rig, and the 6p23, which is the propane vest.
Is the Ulay light the class 3 rig, the tan one?
It's heavy. It's heavy.
Oh, is it? Okay, I thought it was. Huh.
Yeah, should be anyway. That's the class 3 one, right? I mean, I'm going to look it up now. The Ulay. Look, which one's this one? No, that's the class 4. They both got a very similar name. 6b5. I think it's called the 6b5 16.
Don't know, honestly.
The
other diaper rig.
Yeah, it's the other one. The other one. The first one, because no one uses the first one. That one always comes up. Yeah, it is heavy. It is heavy.
Huh. Okay.
So, but the thing is, I don't think you ever find them on Fence. That's the thing. You want to find them on Fence so you can repair it and sell it back to Ragman. That's the easy way.
Right.
You want to just buy all the armors and sell it back. It depends on how aggressive you want to be too. But like most of them, are in class 4 or higher, which means that they're then really
Yeah.
expensive. Like 6B3TM and stuff like that. Like they come up on fence, but the rest of them don't. You know, it's like the Eclipse, the M1, the M2, the TV110. Like you're never
Mm,
going to find those on fence.
yeah.
They're just never going to appear.
It's much harder to
So
grind out.
yeah, yeah, but
But
probably more worthwhile.
I would think so, but it's hard to say for certain until we know exactly what's
Yeah.
the chance? Is it like
Mm.
0.001%? Then yeah, well, the guarantee not bleeding, it might be better, but
Oh, and you get the actual enhancement potential. You know, when you do the repair.
is that
Like,
true for?
never mind the actual vest. But I mean, yeah, you can get
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I
you
forgot
can get
about this.
enhancements, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So if you do the incremental repair, and
Right.
you can repair it in little bits. If you just go like repair, 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 you can repair like tiny increments until you get one,
It's such a
which
weird
is kind of
system.
stupid. It's so weird, yeah.
But like
But
that
then
makes
when you get one, you don't want to repair it again, right? So you have to like you kind of want to do like a
yeah.
big jump and then go like little jumps to the end. So it's like, oh, it's still kind of
But
okay, but
some armors you can't repair, like they repair poorly, so you have to you do like wide
you have to do one
gaps.
big chunk. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
it's just like it's so weird, but maybe that's I don't know.
Yeah, it's the enchanting table. No, it's very weird. It's very weird. So that's that. I mean, I think that it will be really good later,
Yeah,
but and as I said in the vid, right, you're gonna have to cover your head, otherwise, it's kind of been the same way with these previously, I guess. But it's just a real shame to get shot in the face when
yeah,
doing these things.
that's true. Yeah, I don't know. It might like if you could get a Zabrala for 200K, is it the worst thing
Then
in the
maybe,
world if you wear a U-lock?
yeah, then maybe it's all right. I mean, sometimes they get a bit cheaper, right? It's like the thermite and the TNT bricks
Right,
one that
that
normally gets cheaper.
one's
Like,
pretty
yeah,
good.
right now it's the arrays and the relays. That was the one that was the cheapest one because thermite and
Mm,
TNT is expensive for some apparent reason. I haven't looked into all the barters and like what's driving those prices. I haven't checked yet, but last wipe sometimes those could be really cheap and you could grab one for like mid 200Ks or something using the thermite thing once everyone stopped like buying off the fleet. So it could be good. It could be good. Same thing as we were saying with the Redoute. You know, the Redoute you'll still get killed, but the problem with the Redoute is because it's class 5, you'll still get killed by 762 BP. It's annoying because it starts with
yeah,
the 50% pen chance. So you still die no matter how much durability you have. It's like when you've got the trooper on. You know, you've got the Hycom trooper, and you're just like, oh, you know, this thing like it's got so much durability, it's crazy. And then somebody turns up with FMJ in an MP7, and they've got an 85% chance to pen, and you're like, yeah, it's got loads of durability, but you'll die in 3 hits. So like, it doesn't matter.
yeah. I don't, it's because it is so threshold. Um, the system that is, it kind of sometimes it makes these things feel not that great. Like sometimes the difference between one class 5 and the other class 5 is nothing between certain, ammo types, namely the
Yeah,
example you just presented with BP and class 5 armor. So
yeah,
it's, I kind of wish that was different, but it's okay.
yeah. I mean, I almost wish that I don't know. Actually, maybe that's not true, but I almost wish that the armor class kind of scaled. It would make it much more nuanced. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah. That would
so
be pretty
like
cool.
so you could say like, oh, it's class 5, but like maybe it'd be in a. I mean, that'll make this about even more insane. But they're just like maybe there'd be a range or something, or some of them would be like a bit higher, some of them a bit lower. So it'd be like class 5 and a bit, like a bit under, like 4.8 or whatever. So then, because they're like in bullets, and this is the thing, because in bullets we have the full spectrum of penetration, and then we have people. You were able to like pick and choose the specific rounds to match because they're very quantized chunks. The armors, it's just like 4, 5, 6. Whereas the penetration, you can pick like anything from 30 to 60. You know what I mean? And so
Yes,
you can then like
exactly.
pick specifically the ones that are going to defeat these like the very chunkiness of the armor. So it'd be
Yeah.
kind of interesting if the armor was a little bit less quantized and a bit more spread,
But
and had some more variability to it.
but I will say because of that relationship between the bullets and the armors and how the penetration basically the bullets penetration is rated off the armor type in a sense.
Yeah.
I think it's great that they're restricting a lot of the high tier ammos, because now it's like when you find BP and raid, it's like, holy crap, I can now deal with class 6. Like, it's just like an instant upgrade, or if you craft it, I guess, stock it up. Like, I kind of like that it's more restrictive. I think it's a good thing. So I hope that they refine that concept more and lean
Yeah, I
into it.
agree. I agree. Because like even though I'm using BP as an example, like when I was using the Redoute T5 previously, you'd run into BP all the time and die.
Exactly.
Whereas now you're much less likely to run into it.
Exactly.
Like you might do sometimes, but you're more likely to run into other things. Like things I've been killed with recently, Flechette, 5.6A1, a lot of 5.6A1. And I'm running 5.6A1 myself. I've been killed by M80. What else? I'm just trying to think of like some. Yeah, and I've been killed with BT as well. So there's like a lot of those kind of like upper end mid tier rounds. The class 5 actually does really well against those. Like a Redoute T5 is going to do amazingly against all of those bullets actually. Even the Flechette, it'll kind of protect you a bit. Which is cool because you're not just like immediately dying to the like high tier rounds anymore. And like it's funny because all of those rounds that are good, and this kind of hit me when I was making the video and looking at the Zabralo and just being like, what can you actually pen with this thing? And I'm like, oh my god, you can actually only like there's like 5 rounds you can actually even access, and only one of them you can buy, and it only fits basically in the SVD as like a useful gun. It's like this is insane. This is actually like really difficult to get access to any of this stuff anymore. So now it's like it's not even the case of but I could be killed by 5.5A1 or BP or this or that or the other. Well, 5.5A1 is like sold out all the time and it's PC4. If you want BP or you want 300 blackout AP or you want SNB or whatever, they're all built in the workbench. You have to decide which one to make. Like you can't just be sitting there restocking them all. You can only pick one because they take like 10 hours. So you can only be making BP or 300 blackout or SNB or whatever other ones, M61, like whatever. You can only make one. And that time gating, I think, is really important. I think the time gating thing is actually more important. We talked about this a bit before. I think the time gating thing is more important than the money, actually. Even if they're expensive, I think the time gating is the thing that's going to restrict the ammo because that stops the cycling. It really limits the amount of this top tier stuff that you can get per reset. And that's an implicit massive buff for these higher tier armors that previously were really good, really high durability, but because everybody just used the meta ammo that defeated those armors, it just buttered through. So now it's not the case of like, just use the best ammo, just always spend the money on the best ammo because it's always worth it. Now it's like, oh god, like I just can't really anymore. Like I have to make a decision on what to do. If I want to change my weapon, then like I haven't built the meta ammo, I haven't crafted the meta ammo for that one anymore. Like it's tough, it's tricky, and I think this is good for these armors too. So we'll see. I think we might be seeing more of them appear in raid and stuff, but
I think
watch out for the headshots.
I think too that's where the nuance comes into play with the different armors of the same class is like because you are seeing a lot more of these mid tier calibers like your 5.6A1s that only have like 36 pin or whatever it is, and you're rocking a class 5. Now the difference between like a Karun's and a Redoute T5 is huge. It's very impactful. Whereas with 7.62 BP, it's just like they're the same. So
exactly,
I like how this is stacking up, and I'm excited to see. Although I'm looking at this Zabralo barter as right now, and it's Tarkov Market's quoting it for like just right around 200k, and I feel like there's a Zabralo problem looming. in the win.
Which one?
The ASA relay.
ASA relay is like 200k.
Yeah, 200 and no. That's I'm sorry. That is profit. I'm reading that wrong. It is 320k.
Okay.
So that is
it's exactly the same. All right, fine.
Never mind. Crisis averted.
Good. But yeah, this kind of that is a very interesting point because that brings me sort of back round to the point that I touched on earlier but didn't really elaborate, which was I'm using 5.6A1, and I've had a few fights now where people are spongy.
And I'm like, I can imagine.
I'm like thinking, this thing's like it's routine and it's all right, but the fights are lasting a long time. Like I need to start bringing in. I had one particular fight, which again, like anyone who watches the video will see, where 3 magazines for the AK-101 is not enough anymore. If you're using 5.601, it's not enough, especially if you want to do suppressing fire and like, you know, pre-fire and whatever. Like, I ran out of bullets big time because people just take so much longer to die if they're wearing class 5 and if you're not hitting a headshot, because some of the fights are really chaotic. If you just hit all the headshots, and like obviously it's easy. So that brought me back to the question of just like, okay, what next? And so I've been like playing around with some ammo because I was looking through my ammo boxes basically, just like, what have I picked up so far? Because like I've not used any of the meta ammo because I've not had any meta guns, and it's not the meta of the armor hasn't really justified it, right? We've been in the class 4 armor zone up until relatively recently. I would say that things started moving towards class 5 at the kind of like edges, like the upper edges of PvP, when you meet certain groups or whatever. Like I'm meeting people who are max traders and stuff, and so that a lot of people are moving into class 5 now, more so maybe in the last week. I do think this last week I've seen it a lot more than anywhere else, and that's like seeing class 5, shooting at people and they're not dying, and all this stuff. So I'm like, okay. So I had to look through a load of my boxes, and I'm like, yeah, I've actually got a bunch of BP that I never thought was justified in using in the stock AKMs and that kind of thing. So let's start using that. So I've been using like the 103 with a bit of BP in it, but it's not really that, it's not that easy because, yeah, like what are we going to go to now? Like they restricted all of the 7.62x51 NATO weapons last wipe. Now you can't buy the ammo for it either. So I'm not a Peacekeeper 4, so I can't buy M80. So I have to decide like, okay, am I going to craft M80 and then buy an SR for like 150k and then mod it to like 250k and then use M80 in it, which is like 41 pen. It's actually not going to fix my class 5 problem. Like it's
so much more difficult. And I think
so much more difficult.
I think that's a good thing. It's
so good.
It was previously not very difficult. You had a lot of options, but there was clear winners. Like, you know, yeah. And everyone was running the same thing, and it was just not very diverse and interesting. But now I think it's like doing this top 10, which I'm really excited to get into, by the way. The top 10, our top 10 picks for weapons this patch, it was extremely difficult, Giga. Extremely difficult. And I'm not even 100% satisfied with my list, honestly.
Yeah, I'm not really at the end. There's like the end stuff for me is a bit like, that's where I have some question marks.
But, for sure. Same here. But
yeah.
All right. So I think that's pretty much the recap on Tarkov as far as changes and whatnot. The important stuff. I did want to jump into a short segment on 2 interesting things I've came across. One, sensitivity. I'll deal with the visibility first. So someone by the name of Art is War, I believe, he made an app. It is a GUI of sorts, where basically you can do this in Windows. You can basically apply LUTs to your Windows. Okay. And LUTs, for those that don't know, it's basically like a preset of color correction. It's like the church's scuff, low effort way of explaining to it. There's a higher level of knowledge. I don't really have all the details. Artist War probably could easily explain that for you. But you can check out his YouTube channel. He's got a video. Trey featured it, and I think Dell here is supposed to feature it. But I just watched Trey's today, and it's actually really cool because with the GUI, it makes it a lot easier to like change between LUTs versus like Windows. You got to go into the settings and you know how Windows settings can be, right? It's just like sometimes digging for this stuff is a nightmare. But he made LUTs for Tarkov as well. Like he did Warzone, which I guess was like a field that he's interested in, but also Tarkov because he's got some Tarkov friends and whatnot. So he's got one for like interchange and then like a generic one. And it looks great. You have the advantages of not using post FX to like tank your frames. And you get basically like what I would do in like DaVinci Resolve, which is what he did as well. He just did some color corrections, boost the shadows, change to hue a bit, maybe this, that, and the other. And you get a better look at picture. I mean, there's some cost to it in the picture in that, when you have less color information boosting these different channels and stuff, it starts to look a little crunchy, if you ever seen a deep fried meme. So you can't go, it's not going to magically fix it, you know what I mean? But I think it's a really cool thing he's done. It's like, dude, this is genius. Like the fact that he also made it, because like it never really occurred to me, but you could do this without having an app, but it would be really painful to like do it through Windows every time and switch your maps. But now that's a GUI, you can just like select, you know, the preset you want, press enter and apply it. It's like, dude, this is great. And it's really cool. You need to check it out. I'm gonna look into it more, but shout outs to Artist War for that.
That's really interesting. Yeah, so okay, but I have like, this is like passed me by completely. So it's I guess as will be some people being like, is this like, you know, is this like reshade, you know, that got blocked by BSG, you know, is this is this cheating? Like, where's the borderline? You know, like that's probably the question that some people ask. I mean,
yeah,
it sounds to me like it's one of those things where if you do, and we've been through this argument ages ago when we talked about like cheating and hackers or whatever. If you define cheating as using any third party stuff outside of the game to get an advantage, then that means you're not allowed to use the brightness and contrast settings on your monitor, and everyone needs to be shipped the identical monitor to play Tarkov, right, and stuff like that, which is just like obviously stupid. So it does feel, that sounds to me more like a, you know, a color correction on your monitor type setting thing than anything else. Like you're not getting more information out of the game, you're just displaying it in a different way. So for me, it probably feels okay. I mean, obviously I have to go and look at it, but I mean, we have post effects in the game too, so you know, there's ways to like mess around with the colors in certain ways. So I have to go and look and see exactly like how it works and what difference it makes. But as you said, right, you can't crank it. It's not the magical fix for everything. It just makes things look a bit better. So it's probably very welcome.
I mean, I think you said it well. It's like, I really am not concerned about it. If they really wanted to, they could attack this program, right? But like, the program is literally just doing the manual work for you that you would going through Windows. You know what I mean? It's a user interface essentially that probably applies it to the registry where the LUT is stored at. But like, it's like, I've changed my LUT on my monitor, and it's really annoying. Like, I've never done it before, and it's really annoying. Because I did it for like trying to get optimal color balance and whatever for my monitor. But like, in my case, my monitor is actually really bad for brightness. Like, it's nits, I think it's called, is like kind of like really shit. I mean, most TN panels are. Actually, this isn't a TN panel though, but it's an IPS. Like, it has like good color, but the brightness isn't that great. So it's like, I mean, when you think about it, like sometimes I'll literally be like, guys, I need to turn off my monitor, like turn off my light, and I'll turn off my light when I'm streaming and playing. Like, the camera's just like shadows, and you can see like my glasses from the light bouncing off. But I can actually
dark zone.
But I can like actually see, because it's like my monitor is so low in brightness. You know, it doesn't really, like, the blacks and whites are just like all off, and it's hard to see. So, anywho, I say all that to say, if they really wanted to, they could target this, but it'd just be such a foolish thing to do, because you could easily circumvent it by just not using the app and doing it manually. Like, if you're not, you know what I mean? This is like a built-in Windows feature. I think it's a really genius thing you came up with. And then the other pro is like, it's zero cost virtually, because you're not modifying. Like, that's the thing with like reshade. I can understand why they had issues with like reshade stuff, because honestly, a lot of games, like, I even think Rust had, I'm not even sure if they do support it now, but there was a time in Rust where people basically could see in the dark with all the reshade effects and stuff. And their solution was, well, we'll just make night pitch black. Like, you know, there is no gradient, you know, kind of like how Dark and Darker is. Like, it's just pitch black. So yeah, I'm excited. I can't wait to look into it. I think it's like a genius thing he came up with. This is kind of what I want to do with sensitivity. We're just talking about. So I want to make an app for sensitivity, and I've been digging into it. And my God, Giga, the rabbit hole get wider and deeper as you go. So, for those who don't know, if you set your sensitivity to 0.2 for aiming, and then also to 0.2 for ADS, it is not 1-to-1. Okay, it is off. Furthermore, depending on what sight you use, this includes iron sights, it is also different. The ratio is different. Furthermore, within the actual Tarkov items, different sights, optics, etc., there's actually a built-in sensitivity modifier. So BSG actively put one in, and they kind of just like
a what? What kind of
sights
thing?
and
So the
guns.
sights themselves have a different, and guns have a different sensitivity.
I think guns are the same across the board. I'm not positive about that.
But
sights, I can definitely say for sure. I am definitely positive about that one. And they're it's kind of like whatever they felt like doing. There's not really any rhyme or reason. For example, well, I can't say for sure, but as of a couple patches ago, the MRS is like most of the 1Xs are the same, but the MRS is just like an extra 50% higher sensitivity. Why? Nobody knows, but anyways, I got, suffice to say, I got a lot of homework to do, because I've been, like I said, I've been digging, falling down the rabbit hole. I was like, oh yeah, this will be easy. I'll just do a couple of things and change this and that. And like, I didn't expect iron sights to be different than a 1X, you know? Why is that different? Yeah. How does FOV affect it? The fact that different, sights affect it. The other issue is because how this all started is I played Tarkov SP. Someone made a mod where it using C#, which Unity uses. It runs a plugin that kind of like circumvents all this stuff and fixes everything to where it's 1-to-1, where you're aiming or aiming down the sight or not aiming down sight, using different sights, whatever. And using that, I was like, wow, this makes things feel so much easier to aim with. Because I when I was playing the other day, using my AKS-74 UB on customs, trying to shoot scavs in the head, I was having the hardest time just like trying to track the moving target while AD, you know what I mean? It's just like, and I'm like, it's probably like a little bit of skill issue because I haven't played that much, but it also really, it feels like it really shouldn't be that much of an issue. And then I know from playing Tarkov SP, I was just like blown away how easy it was to like, I felt like Shroud, dude. It was insane, you know? And for me, it's like very natural to have these things be 1-to-1. Yeah. You know, it's just like, that's just how I played games growing up, I guess. I don't know. But the fact that it's not is really throwing me off. And I looked at some other people's different settings, and like Landmark, he's got the same ratio. And the only thing I can think of there, like his is like, because I think he plays at 4 in DPI, and his in-game settings are like 0.42 for both hipfire and ADS. And the only thing I can come up with is like he's just a god gamer. He's got 6,000 hours in the game. You know, he runs the same gear every raid, basically the same sights, like the same 2 to 3 optics. Yeah. You know what I mean? He's just got the muscle memory. He's just like overcame it, you know? Me, I'm not there yet. So I need every little help I can get. So long story short, what I want to do is create an app where you basically plug in your gear, what sight are you using, blah, 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 blah.
The armor, the helmet, all
the
armor
stuff.
And
the helmet stuff isn't that big of a deal necessarily because it only affects the turn speed modifier only affects when you're hip firing, not when you're ADS. But
really,
yes, which
is that 100%?
Yes, 100%. Yes, you could test it. It doesn't.
What? It doesn't affect actual ADS sensitivity.
I know.
Only hip fire sensitivity.
I know, but that makes things even more complicated because like
that makes it worse. That makes it so much worse.
Right, the ratio changes when you between your. I know it's really annoying. So like, not only do you basically have a hip fire modifier, so you have a ratio between hip fire and what sight you're using, and then you have a modifier on your hip fire. I need to write a formula for how much of a debuff percentage you have. So the idea is like you select all your gear, like what sight you're using, all the variables, if FOV matters. I'm not sure if it does yet. And gear, and then you hit enter and it gives you values. You copy and paste them in, and boom, you got 1-to-1 now until you die the first 5 minutes loading in the raid. Then you got to pick a new gear set. But that's the idea, because I just like I actually messaged the guy too, the guy that made the mod, and I was like, hey, I got some questions. Please help. And he's really cool. I'm looking forward to chatting, like, you know, pestering some more. But the it's because he fixed it using the same programming language, and BSG already has some legwork done by giving the scopes individual sensitivities. Like, you could make a mod where, or not a mod, I'm sorry, you could make the game, the Tarkov game, where 1x's, 2x's, 3x's, 4x's, whatever, are like all settings within your things, and you have sliders, and you would modify.
Yeah, like in PUBG or something.
Right. They could do that if they want. It's, you know, it's an option. There's tons of different things they could do, but for me, man, just having it 1-to-1, you know, it's just like, that's just, I mean, regardless of the armor debuff change, like, fine, keep that in, you know, make it not 1-to-1. But just like, if they did that, man, it would make, for me, it would make the game so much more what's the word? I don't even know. Like, enjoyable, playable, realistic.
Which bit? The ratio thing.
Yeah, just having the ratio. Like, when I first played the game, I just automatically assumed if I put 0.2 and 0.2 in both slots, it'd be 1-to-1, right? But it's not. And it's like, you know, who's got the time to sit here and do all these tests and calculations to figure out the ratio? So I just bumped it up a few points till, like, feels good, but like, it never really does feel good because it's always slightly off, because you have to use, they only give you 2 decimal points to play with. Like, you can do 2.07.
You set it in the config.
You can. And this is where it gets crazier. So supposedly, I gotta test it some more, but supposedly you can do multiple decimal points in the config. There's like a, for those who don't know, it's just like you have like your key bindings, your graphic settings, your sound settings. These are all different files. It's just, essentially, it's just instructions. I think they're called
text file usually, right?
Yeah, it's not, you're not hacker manning anything or nothing like that. Like, this literally,
your res is stored in there and stuff. Just
yeah, it just tells you, it's just settings for how your game runs, essentially. And you can change it in the menu, or you can change it in a text folder, right? But supposedly you can put multiple decimal points and they work, but if you change any setting, it resets it back to 2 decimal points. So I need to verify that, because I didn't. This is like old information from, like, you know, Reddit posts 3 years ago type of stuff. The other one last tidbit, interesting thing rather, is there's settings for turn X, turn Y, look X, look Y. There's also move X and move Y. Let me talk about the move stuff first. So move X and move Y. This is interesting, and I think this is why circle strafing works, and why holding down A and D forces you to walk to the right via A is ignored, essentially, is because they split it up by negatives and positives. So I believe when you have like move X, right, it's on the X axis, left and right, let's say, then you, underneath that category, you have a child, which would be positive, and positive is the associated key would be D. So when you press D, it's a positive X value that moves you in the right direction, essentially. And then negative move X would be A, which moves you to the left. And I assume when you press them both together, a negative and positive equals a positive? I don't know.
You should just add, so I don't know. Or like one should counteract the other. I don't know. That sounds. It just sounds like kind of like an ordering, or like a priority logic issue. I think
it could be that as well.
One doesn't supersede the other.
I just think it's weird. I've never seen this before, and maybe this is like a Unity thing, because maybe like the base, you know, make your first game now, like the base package is like built for controller. Because that's the other thing, is like, why do you need to look X and look Y and turn X and turn Y? That's more for like analog sticks, right? Like, one's for looking, one's for turning. Anyways, I don't know, but Yeah, because the look at it looks why I do nothing. Like I'm pretty sure. But anywho, so I think that's why circle shifting works, is because normally, at least in my experience, games like FPS shooters, when you have like movement keys, they're individual. These are like
paired, yeah.
Yeah, they're paired, which I think causes some issues. So, and that's why circle shaping works, is because you don't input the same key within the pair.
Yeah, because you don't. Yeah, exactly. You don't cross over. So like it's the inertial system works on the basis of, oh, if you're moving from positive to negative or negative to positive, then do X inertia mechanism or whatever. But if you're moving from pos X to pos Y, there's no overlap there. So you seamlessly transition to going forwards, and then you press left, and then you seamlessly, oh, now we're suddenly going negative, but you never crossed over the threshold of 0. You avoided it in the second dimension by using the W key. I get that.
There's definitely something weird going on. I would like for them to change that, just to see, because that's my biggest gripe, is pressing both keys is kind of natural for me from playing Counter-Strike. So it's just annoying that you can't, come to a complete stop by counter-strafing essentially. But anywho, I thought that was interesting. There may be something there, maybe something not. The really what I want to talk about was this underneath turn X and turn Y. There's another sensitivity field, if you will, that you can put in values, and by default it has 5.0. I'm like, I wonder what this does. And again, it's split up by X and Y. So you got turn X, turn Y, and obviously it's also positive and negative. But so I changed it all to 1, and it's basically a multiplier. My sensitivity was like drastically dropped by like 500% or whatever. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
And the other interesting thing was my free look was also changed. It was now way slower. It was like I had to drag it really, like you have to try to get kind of fast, and then also really far, because there's like that radius where it won't pick up anything.
Okay.
But the important thing is, if you're still, plugged in to church rambling, if you're on the high DPI, okay, some of you may have, switched to lower DPI, but if you want to play on a high DPI, because the problem is, if you play on a high DPI, you can only go so low in the Tarkov settings, right? You can only do 0.01, and that may not be low enough for you on your 64,000 DPI gamer mouse. You can change the multiplier. You can lower the multiplier within the config file. It's in like your app data. I would just Google search it. That's what I did, because I was looking at the older one that used to be in your documents folder, and then I realized this isn't doing anything, and now I know why. So yeah, it's you have to enable hidden files in your PC or be able to see hidden files. But anywho, you could change that multiplier down, and that will allow you to basically run at a higher DPI. So kind of a win for that.
It's interesting. Yeah, I was just actually, I can't even remember what haven't changed it for such a long time. I think I've just got the default. I've got 0.5.
You must be at 1600 DPI.
I'm just having a look now. I haven't changed it for so long that I don't even know anymore. I don't even know. Let me see. Where's my thingy bob? Oh, you're the software for some of these.
Yeah,
some of these things that like now they're so like every single one. Every single piece of software wants to give you like a streaming service and like all this other stuff, and it's like you're literally a mouse driver. Like, can you just please?
Yeah.
Please, can you just stop this? So I'm playing at.
The worst is Razer Synapses. I'm so sorry for any of you that have Razer mice. God, I hate that app.
I got SteelSeries. It's not too bad, but it's become more and more bloatware as time's gone on. So I'm actually playing at 800.
Oh, okay. And you're at 0.5? Oh, okay. Yeah, I was thinking 0.05. Oh, okay.
No, I'm playing at 0.5. So you said Landmark was like 0.4 something? And he's at lower DPI,
0.42, and he's at
400 DPI, is it?
so he's half.
Okay, like half of me. Okay, interesting.
Yep.
Interesting.
So yeah,
I've never played on like I've never been like the huge arm mouse movie. Like
yeah.
I've never had enough desk space. It's like
I had somewhere in between for me, but I do kind of like the wrist. A lot of it's really comes down to preference because you got people like Simple in the Counter Strike community who plays on like a comparatively to all the other pros, he plays on a higher sensitivity, but he uses a lot of like wrist movement stuff, which is interesting. All this stuff is like
that's the thing. Yeah, the
interesting to me.
problem for me is that because I'm historically like an RTS player and
Mhm.
slash like a MOBA player, basically anything with a free like an edge pan, any game
Yeah.
with an edge pan, it makes you become a wrist player because you never have to move your mouse outside of the frame of the screen, right? Because like as soon as you get to the edge, you're then panning.
Yep.
And so you're just like, and so I find myself like I have to like it's literally like decades of muscle memory doing that.
Yeah.
And I have to like forcibly move. I'm better. I am play Tarkov better when I don't do it. Right? I have to forcibly move my wrist so that it's not on the mouse mat and move around using my hand. And it's better when I do that. But it's so easy to forget, especially when it gets like crazy. Because like I'm just better at the fine tune stuff with my hand on the mouse mat, just because I just can't get rid of like it's nearly 20 years of like freaking training or whatever. It's like it's insane. Because like I used to play like when I used to play RTS, I used to play with like a wrist, like an actual wrist rest as well. And I did away with the wrist rest when I moved to PUBG.
Yeah,
Because
I
like
can
back
imagine.
when I played CS and stuff, like it didn't really matter as much. Like I was just like bad at FPS really. I just wasn't very good. Like Call of Duty, I was much better at. But Call of Duty's like recall patterns, as we've seen from the modern games, and it was kind of the same way as the olden games. They don't really have like a vertical recoil model, right? They have a jump and a bounce kind of model. So no, it's not like there's no mouse dragging involved really, like not in the same sense as many other games. Moving over to PUBG, which has got a very serious up into the sky model where you have to like pull down consistently. You have a wrist rest in the way, like you freaking can't move the mouse, right? And you just run out of runway and end up dying. So like I got rid of the mouse mount then, the wrist rest then, but I like still don't know, I still kind of miss it. And like Tarkov, I guess I could probably go back to it with Tarkov actually, but it's just been so long now because I played PUBG for like 3 or 4 years or whatever. I used to like swap in when I played Dota. Like at one point, like when I played Dota, I used to have the wrist rest there, and then I used to take it out for playing PUBG. It was like so weird. So now I just play without it. But like I think I don't know, my whole mouse position. It's just like incompatible games, like incompatible muscle memory that I've just had for years. Just like, and then Tarkov's got all the sensitivity issues. I'm just like completely. There's no chance for me. I'm done.
Yeah.
So before we run out of time,
Yes.
shall we get into
We're gonna do it.
The final topic? We're gonna have to. I guess we can go relatively speedily. It'll be okay.
Yeah.
I think it'll be okay. The top 10 guns for patch 13. I know you're excited to do this, right?
This was. I've spent way too much time into it, and I'm still not satisfied with my picks. So,
how do you want to do it? Did you want to go like one each, and then
we'll start at our bottom / number 10. Giga, what's your 10? What'd you pick?
Okay, so I did mine literally like in the order of progression.
Okay,
because it kind of depends on when you go through the game, right? So my sort of first like entry level like top 10 weapon for patch 13 is the PPSH plus the drum. That's my original entry level, because PPSH has always been quite good. And I used it quite a lot last wipe. But having the drum at Prapor 1 makes it absolutely insane.
Yeah,
like, 35 round mags were already decent mags. Like they were 35 rounders you can't get for really anything at the beginning. Like 30s for the MP5, I think is probably the biggest you can get. And then with the drum, you can spray at people like absolute crazy. It's the only like drum mag you can get, and they're like 15k or something. Like they're not even expensive. It's like actually insane. It's like 5,000 more than like an SKS 20 rounder or something. Like when you actually look at the maths on it. So that's why for me the PPSH is coming number one. I think like super entry level because you can buy it from Prapor 1. You can buy all the ammo straight away. Maybe you need Jaeger, but you can buy some ammo anyway from Prapor. And it's just like lock and load, ready to go. It's super cheap. Can never jam either. So you can have the drum in it. This thing can literally be glowing like the sun, and it will never, ever, ever jam. Like, not possible for it to jam in Tarkov. I think it can jam in real life, but I think that the way that the jam system or the malfunction system works in EFT, because it's very specific types of jams that can't happen to the PPSH. Like, it doesn't. I don't know why. I don't know why it never gets like a mag feed jam though, or anything like that. I don't know, because the magazine could get gummed up in general. But yeah, that's it. For me, that's PPSH. What's your number one?
Well,
the first one.
My number 10.
How did you do yours?
Coming in at number 10.
Is this like worst to best, or did you do kind of?
So I did my list a little bit differently. It was kind of just like what I thought was, like overall the best at any point, kind of in a way.
Right.
So I picked the Clin, because I was looking at the changes. So I always kind of been, a secret Clin fan, but with the changes and the ammo changes and the recoil changes, it has 5 dispersion stat, which is insane. Insane. It literally does not go left. It does not go right. It just goes up a little bit, and because it already has little recoil. Now the Clin you can't suppress. This is true, but because the recoil is so good, you can get SP 8 from a prepper quest on streets relatively early. I did that for my progression route this time around. So I kind of have like this neat little Clin. It's kind of like falling off though. Like it spikes really early on and falls off because it's essentially a leg meta gun. You can use some decent, some like class 2 penetrating rounds. But if headshots are your thing, 1,000 RPM leg meta is your thing, I put the Clin at number 10.
It is 5. I'm shocked.
It's insane.
It is 5.
It's insane. If you crouch with it, it's literally a laser beam. It's nutty.
That's nutty. That's crazy. Okay, cool. That's fun. I like that. That's good.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. That's good. But it's leg meta, right? It's definitely leg meta.
Pretty well much, yeah.
You wouldn't run it with, because the Clin, as opposed to the Kedda, the Clin can run the high pen ammo.
Yeah, but it's like by high pen, you mean 24 penetration or something like that. Like it's
yeah. Is it PSTM or is it PBM? Actually, PBM is quite low damage. It's the problem. So I think they can all run PBM, which is the 28 pen one, but then only the Clin can run PMM PSTM, I think, which is 58 damage and 24 pens. So yeah, it's still pretty low.
Yeah,
still pretty low. Okay, yeah. So it's secure. It's secured in the leg meta spot. That's fine.
I think so.
That's fine. I just wanted to make sure.
And it's dirt cheap.
Money going on.
Dirt cheap on the flea, the Clin.
Indeed. Right. The biggest mag is a 30, right? You can't get a 40 for it.
There is no 40 up. Just 20s and 30s. All right.
Okay, cool. Number 9.
Why do you go backwards?
Oh no, we're going different ways. All right, fine. Number 9 then. All right. Number 9. So number 9 is like a modification based on my experience at the beginning of the wipe, and then overlaid with what has changed. So my number 9 is now the AK-74 UB with PP ammo.
Okay.
Which I now think, like, if we were going back through the game now, that would be like probably the best gun early, I think. It's that gun is insane. So the 74U series got a bunch of buffs. They got like 20 vertical recoil removed, which is huge because you can now make, like, we had some chats on this as well in Discord. Like, you can make some U versions with the same mods that have less recoil than the long versions, and they obviously have higher ergo too. So it's kind of nuts because they got like a really big buff. And the UB specifically, so there was always this relationship, and I think I said this last time, there's always this relationship between the U, the UN, and the UB. The normal U had the widest horizontal, the UN had the one in the middle, and the UB had the tightest. And they've kept that relationship the same. It's not like 5-5-5 different like it used to be, but it's still similar. And so the UB, I actually just even can try and find it. But anyway, the UB's like really low now. It's got like better horizontal than like the long versions. And now that the vertical recoil is also insane, it's like controllability stat, the actual innate vertical recoil control, like return to center, like convergence, whatever you want to call it, is also better than the long versions. It's basically better than the AK-74N.
Which is crazy, right?
Yeah.
It is better though.
It is better.
I'm pretty sure, like, even if you fully mod both guns, the AKS 74 UB just has more ergo. Like, you just get a free extra like 9
I
or
think so.
8 ergo.
Yeah.
And they have
Now,
this.
the stats aren't always comparable between the guns, even with the same
Sure.
RPM sometimes. So, and I haven't actually like fully completely tested it or whatever. But like looking at the numbers, it looks
right. The numbers look pretty good.
The numbers look like it should just be better than all the long versions, which is kind of weird.
Which is very weird because that's not historically how they do things. So
yeah, and
it's interesting.
CZTL is in chat and he says the UB is expensive and you can't buy it without suppressor. I'm just like, you can on the Flea.
You can on the Flea, but it still is, because I was looking at it and they were sometimes going for 50K.
They are now. They never used to.
Which is so weird, right? It's so weird. So weird.
Because people have kind of figured it out. So anyway, so that's my pick there. I mean, to be honest, any AK with PP ammo is fine. Like early on, it's what I end up using. I went for the regular U because I was a cheapskate, but and that was before the changes, so it didn't matter as much. But that's my pick number 9, I suppose. So
yeah, for me, man, I went with the MP7. Just kind of off the basis, you buy it for like around 40K. MP7A1, you buy it off the flea market for 40K ish. Assuming you got the little Peacekeeper level 3, you buy some FMJ rounds, assuming they're in stock, because I checked today and they were not in stock, and they're probably never going to be in stock. And anyways, it's such a good round, the FMJ, where it sits now. I think it's what, like 35 pin, 36 pin, or is it 40 pin? Is it 40? Which is, dude, I still can't get over that. And it's only $3 a round, which is like, that's as much as you pay for PP almost. So with all that in mind, the one downside I will say is the ricochet chance is pretty rough on it. And I know some people that have completely thrown away the MP7 for that reason. But you get what you pay for. And yes, it is rough at 20 round mags, but just the fact that, early in the wipe, you're like level 20, whatever, you got Peacekeeper 3, you can just run a full automatic SMG with 40 round ammo or 40 round pin ammo that has a penetration of 40.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I used it a bunch with 20s and it was fine.
I thought it was fine as well.
Yeah.
Take off the rear sights, use the front sight only, get a blue laser. It's like it's great.
I didn't think about this actually. Like, what happens if your choice comes first? Because like, I've got the MP7 later in my list. So I'm oh, we've talked about it now. Okay, but we could just like
Well, you may have a different reason why it's high on your list. So,
actually, that's true. That's a good point. That's a good
point. Sure. All right, what you got next? Number 8.
So number 8 for me. I wonder whether I reorder these. I probably should reorder these actually. I'm going to reorder these slightly. So I'm going to reorder them just a little bit. So number 8 for me then is the Scar L with 5.6A1. I think it's like once you get to 5.56, like and not M855, the whole like world just opens up because 5.6A1 is so good. A lot of the guns are so good. Like the Scar L is really good. The MDR is really good. I do like the MDR, but I feel like the MDR is like, I made that video recently basically that you can't get this gun wrong. Like it doesn't really, it doesn't really do anything special. Like you can't break it, right? But I feel like it's it's like Toys R Us, like my first 5.56 rifle. You know what I mean? It's like it's like. Yeah, if you're a connoisseur of the Tarkov, then you can just like not use the MDR really. I did use it a bit, but the Scar L does like more of the same and better if you know how to build it. And I've been absolutely loving the mini monster builds on it because you don't really need the vertical recoil control as much, just because it's pretty decent on that gun anyway. And the horizontal is like non-existent, and you just shoot people with it, and it doesn't cost that much to mod because it's pretty good straight out the box. You can pick like three different lengths of barrel as well, and they're all on the flea. Like the black version is the long one, and you can get the short and the long one. I think on the black version, the medium and the short one on the tan version. So you can like choose whichever one because that's sometimes the annoying thing, right? If you want to change barrels, they're all like 30,000 rubles from like Peacekeeper 4 or some stupid stuff. Whereas like having all of them available on the Flea is like pretty neat. So I think the Scar's really good. I like it a lot, and especially at that particular point, like when everyone's running class 4, it just eats people.
Yeah, it's a good point about it being all the parts are all on the Flea for the barrels and stuff, because some guns aren't like that, or they're highly sought after, so they're harder, more pricier. That's a good point. I didn't think about that.
Yeah, it's kind of annoying. Things like the M4, right? It's just like if you want to run the 18 or the 20, like they're
Yeah.
expensive on the Flea. They're like high level traders. They're just expensive things. Like you basically have to run like the ADAR barrel or the one that it comes with automatically, the M4. Otherwise, you're kind of screwed. Makes it expensive. So how's what number are you on? 8, was it?
Yeah. So for me, number 8, I had to go with the RFB, simply because the gas analyzer barter. The gas analyzer barter, man. 2 gas analyzers for an RFB?
Controversial.
Sign me up.
Dude, I don't know. I think this is the first one where I kind of disagree with you.
Really? You think it should be higher? Or you don't think it should be on here at all?
I don't have it in my list whatsoever.
Really?
Right, and I like the RFB because of the way that the ammo works now. Like I know BCP's a bit better, but like
it's still rough.
Man.
Yeah.
I just feel like the progression slot just doesn't really work for it anymore. It's like by the time you get to Peacekeeper 4 with M80, it's like you can probably use something better. And I don't know. I just don't feel like it's lost its place a little bit. I'm not sure. Like I'm not sure if I would use it even if it was like 15k. I don't know. It's just I'm not sure if I can touch this gun with BCP.
Yeah. The only that is one problem I will say is the ergo's not great on it, but you can put a vertical, the cheap Peacekeeper like +7 ergo on it. Like I'm thinking like for whatever reason I want to have a snipey like DMR. This would be probably the gun I would pick, right? Like what else would you pick? Like I don't really like using PS to snipe with, like 7.62 by 39 PS.
Like you wouldn't want to use the SKS.
Yeah, you can, but the drop's a little like if you're like a tower, it's just like, oh yeah, 0.8 millidots or whatever you say does. Like targets 5,000 meters, wind coefficient.
Clip, by the way, oh my god, they're ridiculous. I'd like to watch a couple of the airing shots. Honestly, insane. Actually insane.
Yeah, shout out to Tower.
Remind me to talk about that later on because it's actually funny just before we finish.
Yep.
But yeah, I don't know. Like
that's kind of my reasoning. It's like that would be because it's cheap, and if you want something to do some sniping with, cheap and early on, that's why it's number 8 for me.
It is freaking cheap. Would you be using it with BCP? This is the question. Or would you crafting M80
prior to the BCP patch? But I was top loading. I had before they did the ammo restrictions, I already had 40 or 40 to 80 rounds of M80 that found in raid. So I was already kind of sitting pretty, and I used the RP a bit, but I was top loading with M80 and bottom loading with BCP. So, and now that just kind of got better. So I wouldn't want to use, I don't know. It's tough. Like I said, this list was tough, you guys. I'm not kidding when I said I'm not satisfied with everything on this list.
I guess the thing that I'm not used to these days is that BCP and PS have the same pen.
Yeah.
Even though I did the video, right? Even though I did the video, in my mind, BCP still sucks.
It does.
It sucks for so long. And so I'm talking about the SKS and stuff, but it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't really make any sense. I mean, in theory, I don't like the SKS anyway. I use the VPO 136, but in theory, you can get more shots off because the recoil's lower. So there's that. But I don't know. Maybe it's okay. Maybe it's okay. I'm not sure.
Yeah, maybe it is kind of just a fancier SKS. So maybe SKS is kind of just because they're probably not going to take your SKS, but they're probably going to take your RFB, especially if you tricked it out. I wouldn't.
It's a 3 slot, right? You take the mag out and it's 3 slots. So
I wouldn't trick out an RFB now, but you can at least put on a decent scope and not have the Cobra with the weird sight on top that's high that. There's certain things about the Russian guns that are kind of annoying to mod sometimes, but
yeah, I know what you mean. Okay, I'm converted. Okay, I see where you're coming from. I've been pulled back from the edge.
He's approved it. Yes.
I've approved. No, that's good. I think you've changed my mind. You changed my mind on it. Actually,
Okay.
I was like, I completely disregarded it, but you've changed my mind on it.
All right. What's your number 7 so I can absolutely blast you out of no.
So my number 7 was the AK-101.
Okay. This
It's
is interesting.
it's basically just like the step up from the Scar L for
Mm-hmm.
me. It costs more to get started with the 101, in my opinion, and to justify doing it. Now, there's one thing that is kind of interesting that had sort of like passed me by until I was making the video, was that the 5, so the 101's brilliant, man. I've got a video coming out soon. It's like the best of everything, because it's like an AK, but it fires actually damaging rounds because it uses 5.56. But the weakest part, in my opinion, of the 5.45 platform is the lack of suppressors. You basically, it's like waffle suppressor or nothing. You know what I mean? Like the others are really bad. And so the
Yeah.
beauty of the 101 is that you get to use all the 5.56 suppressors on an AK, and it's one of the best parts about it. I mean, it means you get like the flexibility of the AK modding with the 5.56 muzzles, which is just crazy good. It's so good. It also has really high muzzle velocity, which, like, you know, it's just an added bonus basically. But the thing about the 101, like, I've been running a build, it's not even that nutty, but you can be suppressed with the 101, and like the best conventional build, sorry, the min recoil vertical conventional build is like 37. You can get it lower if you do some stupid stuff, but like 37 is like the minimum recoil, like, conventional build. You can fairly easily run a 45 vertical recoil 101
Yeah.
without being too crazy. And like you can use like the butt pad
Yeah, that's
stock,
the thing,
and you
right?
can be at 45 vertical, and you can be suppressed, and you can still run it at like 50 ergo. It's so good. It's kind of the best of everything. The biggest downside of it is the 30 rounders, that you have no preference on mags at all. But like, other than that, everything else about the gun is great. You're still firing like intermediate caliber, so it's 5.6A1, and it starts to lose its efficacy. And yeah, you have to move up to 5.5A1, and then even that's not that amazing against class 5. Like, it's all right, but we're not talking about the HKs and the M4s of old, so the time to kill is slightly lower because you're at 650 RPM and yada yada yada, all that stuff. But like, for the mid game, it's kind of my gun of choice. I think it's so good. You can build out and also, actually, one other thing about the 101 is that you can it's basically the only 5.56 gun that you can make a good gun for and run unsuppressed, because it not only gets the 5.56 muzzles, it also gets the 5.45 or the random standard AK muzzles. You can use the RRD on it, which is an insane muzzle.
It's a really good
You can
muzzle.
have like 70 ergo and like 45 vertical recoil, loud, but the thing bangs people out. And it's like, if you can buy it from Mechanic 3, the build costs you, because I literally have been looking at it today, the whole build, like pre-optic, costs you 90k. And then you put an optic on it. It's
really
like 100k. It's insane. It's so good.
A naked RD from the trader costs more than that.
Yeah, it's mental, right? So I think it's so good. It's just such good value. I think the 101's really good. I think it's really good.
For me, man, this one's kind of a curveball, but I went with the VSS.
Oh,
I know.
I can see it though. I can see it. I don't have it on my list, but I can see it. I'm interested to hear your reasoning.
I had to do a lot of digging, but because they buffed all the recoil changes they did, the camera recoil, you know, everything got reduction in camera recoil. That helps things like the VSS that kind of had a higher one. The dispersion changes, all the weapons got their dispersion lowered across the board on average, right? That helps the VSS, right? Because it's kind of got a kick. Now, the reason why I went the VSS over the AS Val is because the AS Val is a little bit better in a couple different areas, but it's more expensive. So here's the thought line, right? Is I want a gun that can deal with class 5 armor ish. Okay. You buy the VSS off the flea market. Presumably it was a scav gun that's already been repaired, so you don't have to repair it. It's got 92 durability. You know, it's a little bit of a risky thing, but we're kind of going for like a budgety Chad killer, if you will. You craft SP6. Why SP6? Well, one reason is you get 300. I think it's 300 rounds from it.
A lot, yeah.
That's a lot. Okay, a lot of these crafts are usually 120. Some of them are like 80 or 60, but getting 300 is insane. It also cost you around, I think it was like 300 rubles around the craft. And SP6 deals like what, 46 pin? I wish I took notes on all this stuff. I was trying to like scramble to get my stuff. Yeah. So, and oh, sorry, this is quoting 9 hours on Target Wiki to craft. I'm gonna double check Target Market, but that's the general gist of my reasoning why it's number 7 for me.
Yeah. Okay. That broadly makes sense. I mean, I do think that so the thing that I hadn't thought of there, where you were just thinking and talking about your rationale, was the scav durability thing. I think that's cool because you can now repair it up.
Mm-hmm.
The way that I would use it though, because I don't really like the full auto on the VSS and the Valve, because I still feel the vertical's a bit rough. But with the scav change, and you've got it lower durability, you can use this on semi actually pretty effectively. And I don't think it's that bad because of the way that you were talking about with the ammo, right? Like the ammo is identical in many ways to, actually I want to see the armor damage, but it's basically identical to BP.
Yeah.
For 7.62. It's got the same damage and it has one less pen, which is really not that meaningful. It goes from a 55% like first shot against class 5 down to 45%. Like still a coin toss, right?
Yeah.
Has almost the same armor damage, very slightly less. Okay, so it's tiny bit subpar from BP.
Right.
But I think SP6 might be one of the only rounds left in that kind of region that you can still buy from the traders.
Yeah.
In any meaningful way. And it's at Prapor 3.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can craft it, right? As you were saying, you can craft it at Workbench 2, you can get it really early. But I kind of feel that like Prapor 3 maybe is almost more where it's like power spike hits or whatever, like using it on semi and hitting people with like BP ammo that you can just buy from the trader. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean you could there is, I didn't look at the barters. There's a ton of barters. There's SPP barter, which I don't think is really that good. SPP is kind of below SP6 nowadays in terms of its performance. I'm not sure what I guess the pro is that it's better than SP5, but doesn't have the cons that the other ammos have, like additional recoil, right?
Yeah, it's got a bit more damage too, but I still wouldn't. I don't know. I'm not that bothered.
There's a barter for BP and SPP, but I think the value. So I think the value's in the craft because, like I said, I mean it's like 300 rubles around, and you get 300 9 hours. So like you could craft this, overnight, wake up in the morning, start a new craft on a different gun. But now when you get back on from after work, you got you're crafting a new ammo, and you got 300 rounds of SP6 to use, and like a decent killing machine. I mean, if you need a full, I would recommend 20 rounders. I think 30 rounders are just too expensive at 40K around. It just doesn't make sense, right? If money's not an issue, sure, but I'm assuming money's an issue here, so I would do that and single tap, as you said, at every other distance. And I mean, I think it's a decent. So it surprised me when I looked at it, but I think it makes sense now.
Yeah, I think with the single tapping thing, I think 20 round is actually okay. Like, as you say, it's quite expensive actually on Prapor. It's like 1,255 if you're going to buy it from him. So it is pricey, and the craft is so cheap. In comparison, there is quite a big gap there actually.
Yeah,
which is kind of interesting. So yeah, okay, I can see it. Still not sure if I'm going to use it.
I'm also there with you. It's like a niche thing, It might make sense for certain people. Probably Tower, because he's a sniping VSS monster.
Yeah, you do have the downside of the slow rounds and the high curvature, don't you? So
yeah,
kind of makes it a bit tricky, but I can see the use case. Like, it might work. And yeah, it's relatively cheap because you don't need to really mod the VSS.
That's the thing, right? Slap on a sight, you're good to go.
Basically it.
All right, what you got for number 6?
Number 6 for me, it was the MP7. That's where the MP7 went in for me.
Okay.
To be honest, I don't think there's much more to say. Like, it's the same rationale as you. You can actually buy the FMJ ammo. It's 40 pen, one of the few rounds left in that region. If you look at all the other SMGs, I still think it's out of place. I can, like, there's an argument to say, oh, well, it's very short ranged. It's very specialized. It's like an SMG type bullet. it doesn't really work at long range. The MP7's got like 8 MOA or something because whenever they
Yeah.
like SMGs were too strong and they nerfed them all, so they've all got like terrible MOA now, just unrealistically for balance, which is fine. I don't really care. That's okay. But the problem is that when you look at it relative to all of the other ammos of like the similar type, you've got the 9mm PvP, which is just in craft only and impossible to get.
Yeah.
AP 6.3 is really god awful, right? It's just bad. SS 190 is craft only, and you can't buy that. 193 I think is like trade level 4 now, but that's only like 34 pen or something, I think. I can't remember. But basically all of the other SMG ammo. Oh yeah, and then BT for the Shrimp 2 is also craft only.
Yeah.
45 AP is also craft only. So it's like, and that 45 AP is 38 pen, right? Like it's just like it just feels out of place compared to all the others.
Yeah, it
in the
stands
SMG
out.
category. It just sticks out like
Right.
a sore thumb that
I
it's
agree.
just there with 40 pen.
Yeah.
Like it's got like 90% pen chance against class 4. Everyone wearing class 4 just dies immediately. It's like 950 RPM. Yeah, like yes, mags are restricted. You do need to be mechanic 3 to get 30 rounders. We talked about that before. 20 rounders like actually work okay, especially at the point in the progression that you're at when you have them, because everyone else is running class 4, and 20 rounds is more than enough to just absolutely shred anyone. So once you've got to mechanic 3, then you can buy the 30s just fine, and that's when it starts to lose its efficacy a bit, because if you run against class 5, you can have some issues. So that's, I don't know, that's where the MP7 fits for me. I think it's good. It's like this sort of like mid-game SMG that I was running a lot, and it was working really well. I thought it was good.
Funny enough, my number 6 is one that you mentioned, which is the AKS 74UB for basically the same reasons. It's, probably one of the best AKs in general, and PP ammo is good. And yeah, you can find BT. So like, yeah, seems like a good one. Good gun.
Yeah, finding the ammo actually is a good thing. You can find it, because I found loads of stuff. I found BS and all sorts of ammo for 545. You can find it all over the place, which is really cool. And should you just move on to the next one then?
Yeah, I think so. What you got for number 5?
So number 5 for me is like, it's just my budget go-to from like this point and onwards, which is the MP153 plus Flechette. I finally unlocked Flechette. It took me a while this time, and anytime I don't know what I'm gonna run, I just run that on factory. And if I'm just like, what are we gonna do? Let's just run a Flechette run on factory, and I'll probably have something busted in my inventory. I've probably got like a 30 out of 40 rat rig and like a ratnik helmet lying around, and I'm just like, put that on, and a pair of GSSH, the MP153 preset that I've got, the Flechette cannon, and we'll stick a blue laser on it, and the target ring. And off we go. It's just, yeah, it's the great equalizer. It's insane. The round's still crazy. It's absolutely bonkers. Like everything just dies in.
Yeah.
Class 4 basically dies in 2 hits. Class 5 dies in 3 hits. Class 6 dies in 4 hits. The new Zabralo, I think, dies in 5 hits when I was having a look at the figures. So it's mental. I've actually had quite a few unfortunate situations with it recently where they haven't died after we got like what looked like pretty clear shots on. So I think I've been unlucky for some pen on that, but normally it just absolutely nails people. And I've been shooting at them kind of like through like angles and stuff, so maybe I wasn't hitting them with enough pellets, because that's assuming you hit with all 8, right? All 8 darts.
It is like the ultimate RNG gun. Like the further out you get, the more RNG you get, because it's like the pellet spread, the loss in velocity, so the loss in penetration, which affects the rolls of whether it pins or not. Like there's
yeah, it gets a bit crazy. But I was using, because I like the 153, and I've been using it with Magnum a lot before getting Flechette. The Magnum recoil increase really screws me up. Maybe it's my muscle memory or something. I don't know, but like the recoil increase is super high. Having to pick between head and legs is really annoying. Like Flechette, the recoil is so much lower. You can pump shots out like crazy. You have to shoot at center of mass. It doesn't even matter. I just way prefer it to Magnum Bug. Like I kill people with Magnum Bug. It was fine. It was all right. Like it was usable. But Flechette just feels so easy in comparison because of the center of mass shots. Sometimes you just hit them straight in the head. Sometimes you do 3 shots and you kill them in the armor. Like their arms are all bleeding and everything. Like they're just absolutely screwed, right? It's like it's so good. It's so good. So that's it basically. And like any of the pumps will work. Like 155 was also okay, but the 153's got the best like centering time, so you can just go. It's awesome.
Yep,
it's awesome.
Dude, funny enough, I had it on my list and I took it out. It's like it's in my honorable mentions, but it's this was tough. So my number 5 is, it's a little bit of a bias pick, if I'm honest, but it's my ultimate skill gun. It is the G36, dude. This thing, looking at the stats, it's basically just like a Scar, right? In terms of its dispersion, it's not as good on the auto compensation, but only about like 0.05. Like, does that really matter? But the big thing about it versus the, like, historically, I would be a Scar picker, right? Between the two. G36 was kind of fun, but it was kind of like really difficult to make work. It was in a weird spot. But now that it has basically the same, it's basically a Scar L that shoots faster. And this is kind of the funny thing about a lot of these guns I'm finding is like, what suppressor I put on, or not? Yeah, I guess it is kind of a lot of guns, but since they reduce the dispersion across the board, basically there's less variance on left and right.
Yeah.
Basically, that means that recoil isn't as valuable as it used to be, because, like, yes, lowering your recoil does basically make that angle tighter, right?
Yeah.
But because the angle's already tight to begin with, recoil's not as valuable. So I like Mini Monster is like pretty much in all my builds. G36, Scar, AK-101. Like, it just seems like
AUG.
Yeah, the AUG. Well, the AUG might maybe really. You see, the AUG might. Yeah, I wanted to put the AUG in, but anyways, nonetheless, yeah, G36. It's gonna have some kick to it, but I think the value is, oddly enough, I think the value is once you get the Peacekeeper 4, I believe, you can get the medium length one, which I like, and you put the recoil stock on the back, the fixed one, I guess it is, and then you get the QCR handguard on it, because it's the 4 vent can only take that one. The 2 vent can't. The 6 vent can't either.
Yeah.
And you don't, you can, yeah. That's kind of my pick for it. What I would recommend.
Interesting.
It's a weird pick because it's like, it's almost like a late game budgety kind of build. You know what I mean? It's not something I would recommend running early. I guess maybe you could with the long version, but I don't like dealing with all the nuances of the long version, like no flashlight laser unless you do put one on top, but then you have to have a sight that's tall enough. Yeah.
And it all gets kind of weird. Yeah. So for everybody in chat going like, oh, the AUG, because I literally mentioned the AUG, like I've mentioned it as an example of something that takes the mini monster, not as an example of a gun that I think is good. Just for complete clarification here.
Yeah.
So the little thing that I would like maybe disagreed with you a little bit on was you said about the auto control thing was like a bit worse on the G36 versus the Scar. Like, does that matter? And I think it does because of the rate of fire, and I think that the fact that both the vertical recoil compensation and the rate of fire together are both worse. It like those things compound and make it like exponentially worse than the Scar in that sense, just for vertical recoil. But because the horizontal recoil is so good now, as you say, it kind of matters a lot less. Like that recoil pattern that we're used to controlling, we can now control it without any horizontal twist to it. So as long as you're just pulling down enough, then it's no big deal. I built a G36C, like kind of C-ish, for that video that I did, right?
Yeah,
and loads of people were just like, oh no, this is the worst G36 you could ever build. Like, I've literally not died with this thing yet. I take it out as like when I'm running just like a meme run or something, doing something stupid, I just like take this thing and it's actually not that bad. Like it's actually okay. It's the short barrel, like it's the dumb, goofy, like low, the high ergo one. I think I might even have gone mini monster on that as well. I've literally got it here. I went mini monster on it. So it's got like 64 ergo and 68 vertical recoil. So it's not amazing by any means, but it's literally just got a hollow on it. I didn't even change the stock over. So it's just like my little meme G36. It's really funny and it's only 3 slots long. I just think it's really cute and really, really hilarious. But it's snappy, right? I'm not used to the G36 feeling. I was trying to build an ergo gun basically.
And that's the other thing I forgot to mention. They got an ergo buff as well, which it really needed. It needed something. They gave it ergo. I'll take it. So I just feel like if you're a god at mastering the Tarkov recoil pattern, this is probably the gun for you. Like if you want to like use a gun consistently over and over and like practice and get good at, this would be the gun I would recommend. It's kind of
Yeah, you've been
niche.
trying to pitch the G36 as a skill gun forever.
Dude, I think now, but it's actually there because it has 10 dispersion. Like previously, I think it had like 18 or something
It
weird.
was good before, but yeah, it was
The Scar was
not
better. Yeah.
Yeah.
And now that it's on par with the Scar, it's like, dude, this has got to be it.
Yeah, so it depends. I think for like close range, I think I would probably prefer it. Like I used where I took mine was the reserve tunnels. That's where I took mine.
Yeah, that'd
So
be
I
a good
feel
spot.
so I feel like the Scar's quite good because of the lower rate of fire. I feel like it's better for kind of the medium range engagement through a scope, that kind of thing. G36 is pretty. I mean, the time to kill is just better at having that nicer fire rate, like 750 or something. So it's decent. I think it's decent. And yeah, the horizontal is still better than the M4, so it feels still lasery. I can see it. I can sort of see it. I'm not sure. I'm still not sure, but I was intrigued. Actually, yes, that's what I was going to do. I was like on the side. I was like just opening up the game. Just like, let me just try this like medium barrel build because like I don't really have access to it because so I didn't bother last time. But yeah, we'll see. I'll have to tinker. I have to have a tinker with the G36 and the middle one. I like the idea of that build with the foregrip though.
Yeah. Anytime I can squeeze that foregrip in, I'm immediately like, that's why I like the MCX is like, it can take this foregrip and it's like, it's a good foregrip for the value, you get in there. So
it is a good foregrip. Yeah. Cause what is it? 3% recoil reduction? Yeah.
Yeah. It's like 3 and 4.
Ergo.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's high for what you get.
Mm-hmm.
It is high for what you get. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Oh yeah, the only other thing I was going to say is that the mini monster obsession that I've got right now, I think it's just because a lot of guns struggle with ergonomics in general, but the 101 I don't think it needs it. I really don't, because the ergo is so good on that gun that you can run like whatever suppress you like. That's one of the things about the 101 for me. I just don't think you need to go mini. You can, but I don't think you have to, which is nice because, yeah, for the Scar, I feel compelled. The Scar, the G36, the AUG, like any of those, I feel like I have to go mini. Otherwise, it just feels bad. And the vertical recoil doesn't counter the fact that the ergonomics sucks. Whereas, 101, I feel you got more flexibility. And the MDR, you don't need to do it for the MDR either. So I think it kind of depends. But that's it. That was just my extra thing that I reminded myself about.
Mini monster supremacy.
It's so good.
Yeah, I think this is the wipe where, because the dispersion is so close in between now, so small, I think mini monster makes sense on a lot of guns. Unironically, which is funny.
Indeed. So now for my list, we're now getting into like the speculative area where things get a little weird because I've not actually used these guns yet because we're not there. I'm not there yet because mine's very progression centric, right? The list that I've got.
Yeah.
We're kind of up to where I am like right now. So my number 4 is the SVD.
Okay.
And it's basically a combination of the difficulty in getting any of the good ammo.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's a good reason.
Combined with the cheap availability of like decent ammo, plus the only availability of like one of the best ammos in the game on Prep or 4 to buy, which is BT. You can buy BT from him. It's very, very good. SVD obviously has some problems, right? We know the SVD's got issues. It's kind of hard to build. I don't know. I feel like maybe this is its wipe. I don't know. We'll see. We'll end up seeing how squeezed people end up being on the ammunition. But I feel like ammunition is becoming a problem. So it could almost become like the default DMR for the late game.
Yeah, I can see that. Just like, for sure.
You're just like going through your inventory and you're just like, crap, I haven't crafted any of this stuff. What am I going to use? Okay, well, I'll use the SVD with BT. It's got 55 pen and 78 damage. You deal with class 5, no problem. And it's actually probably a 55 pen. It's probably like I want to say like a 35% chance against class 6. Not bad. Really not bad. When I did my calculations, BT was like the bottom end against the Zabralo, right? It was like a 3-shot because the new Zabralo was BT.
Wow.
Like,
okay.
It's strong. The BT's really strong. Like you will kill, if you hit them in the thorax, you'll kill basically anybody in 3 hits. Like absolute maximum. So 55 pen is enough. And it's because it's got 87 armor damage. It's got such high armor damage. It's actually insane, the armor damage that it does. So it just distributes so much of that into the armor that like there's nothing that can really withstand it. So I feel I need to run some more SVD builds. I need to figure out some builds because I've done a wipe with min recoil SVDs and I've done a wipe with max ergo SVDs. I've done both. Both are scuffed. Both were hilarious. But I need to figure something out. I'm sure there's a way to make it work. I don't know. I've got to like figure out some middle ground. We'll have to see. I feel like definitely loud, but
Yeah.
you got to go just like balls out with the loud SVD.
I would recommend, as an SVD enjoyer myself, I would recommend using a PSO scope, specifically the 1M-2, I think it's called. I like that sight setup. They're all like a little bit different. But I think the 1-M2 is like the most different or whatever it's called. And slap on, I know it's gonna be controversial, but slap on the iCup. I know it's controversial, but the value, 700 rubles for +7 ergo, Giga, the value there is really good. You basically
not being able to see.
You can see, you just can't see outside of your scope. Okay, so you just have to look at them directly.
All right.
I love that. Yeah, I'm totally biased. I love my iCup. I'll even go to the extra extent of like toggling it on and off, like taking it on and off for certain situations.
Wow, you really are like
I love it. I love it.
How much did you get back? 5. It only means it means the PSO then costs 2.
Oh, okay. I thought it was 7. So almost negates it, which
almost negates it.
Nice.
Oh my god.
Something to look into.
Heard it here first. New meta. Jesus Christ.
All right. Number 4 for me, we gotta get this list rolling, is AK-103. Simply because the 100 series is kind of like unique in that their base stats are good, but their final forms aren't as good as similar AKs. Like they can't accept the Zhukovs because they got folding stocks or whatever. That kind of makes them good early on and less good later on. But that's kind of why it's number 3 for me is, with the Krebs, the rubber butt pad, maybe a Saw grip, maybe a nicer grip if you got it unlocked. You can build a really cheap assault rifle, like under 100k with really good stats, high ergo, good recoil reduction that fires PS ammo. Yes, it's not BP. It's still, can deal with class 4 and yeah, exactly as nothing said. If you don't have an RD or mutant, this is like, I think it's probably one of the better choices, and it's kind of fills in that gap for that late wipe when you don't have those options. That's kind of why I put it so high on the list at number 4.
Yeah. That's interesting because I literally started using the 103 as like my answer to the question of like what next after 5601 because I have so much BP in my inventory just randomly. So I'm stacking mags with BP and using the 103 because you can just do that, one of those standard builds. You can run it loud or you can run it with a suppressor. There's like you can kind of do both. The suppressor's not very good for the 103.
Yeah.
It's one of the, again, another issue because you can't use the 308 like adapter.
Right.
But you can for the AKM series, which is kind of problematic. So I normally just end up like if I'm going to go loud, I just use that because it's just like I don't need a better stock. I use the butt pad. I put the RRD on it. The things like you use the Krebs. It's incredibly cheap. You put a Bastion on or whatever scope. Put some like 10 BP and 20 PS underneath. Take 3 mags and off you go. And I've been using that like actively on streets. I've probably run like 5 raids with it or so. Weirdly, I've found like the BP's just like not been dealing with the scouts very well. I don't really know why. It just feels it's partly me. I think it's a skill issue as well. But
could be. Who knows?
Like I got mine so it had like really nice ergo because it was unsuppressed, but it was about like high 60s, I think is where mine ended up sitting. Like
pretty good.
68 recoil, which is not bad. And like the build's cheap too. Again, it's like the AK-101 build, but cheaper. So it's again like 100k, like 90k, 100k build. So it's and as you say, the base gun is cheaper actually. So it's probably more like 80 actually because you can buy them so cheap. So I can see that, especially as you're like if you're tentatively moving into BP, like it's not a bad place to start. with that. You do end up having to do a bit more single tapping though over like medium distance because of the recoil, but it's fine, and you can slug away at close range too. So it works. It works.
Yep. What's your number 3? What you
Oh,
got?
my number 3, I don't actually know yet which is going to be better. So I kind of cheated and picked 2, but it's going to be either the RD or the mutant, and I'm not sure because I haven't got either unlocked yet, so I haven't been able to use either. But both of these guns were buffed, and I don't think we've quite got there yet. So that's sort of the issue that we're yet to face. It's going to be another may or may not be another like RD one. So the RD has still got like decent horizontal. It's not like top tier. I know like the reason why I thought that it's probably going to be quite good is that last time the RD was just been like it was just so decent, and we like that vertical recoil combination with the horizontal. So like the vertical's not great, but you can control it. But the horizontal is really good, and so that compensates for it. Now I don't know whether it will just feel a bit lackluster now, because it's kind of fallen away. Like it used to be like top tier for horizontal, and now it's very middle of the road because of the way that things have shifted around it. So it might not feel as good as it did. On the flip side, the mutant is almost the same as the RD now on horizontal. It's very, very close. It's very similar, but its auto control is way better still.
Yeah.
So I feel like the shift back to the mutant, like that's why I was thinking like, like I quite like the RD, but I feel like the mutant might become the one this wide.
Yeah.
So if I was going to pick one to put in that slot, it'd be the mutant. But like as I said, I haven't used either. The mutant's got a higher fire rate, so that has like some impact on it. But I do think once you can solidly start crafting VP and you're using it like with stack mags, I think the mutant will be pretty powerful again. I think it will be good.
You know what's crazy is neither the RD or the mutant is on my list, and we're nearing the end, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
So
what's your number 3?
Number 3 for me is gonna be 308 MDR.
Okay.
It's kind of a niche. I was originally going with the RSS, but I think I swing to the MDR simply because it's horizontal is better, which you kind of want a better horizontal for full auto guns over a better convergence, in my opinion. Like convergence is basically the time it takes for it to reset back to the center when you fire the gun. And a really high convergence is great for single tapping because the gun could have insane recoil. Namely your pistols, for example. They have really high recoil, but they snap back instantly. So they're great for single tapping. But you wouldn't really you could full auto with it, but it's with that high kick, it's gonna kind of feel weird. It's just gonna be like it's basically what the Glock 18 feels like, right? If I'm not mistaken. Like it has insane the
18C into the roof.
Yeah, like it has 5 convergence, which is really high, but the base recoil is like 300 on it. You know what I mean? This thing just like goes up like crazy. So yeah, that's why I went with I prefer the versatility of the MDR. You have that full auto capability over the RSS. Yes, the recoil is more. The ergo's high, so you can put a scope on, put a suppressor, and not have those things cost as much on the overall ergo. So it still feels snappy when you're sighting in to get those one taps. And in emergency situations, you got the full auto up close. It has 11 or is it 15? Whatever. It has decent, respectable horizontal. So that's my number 3. It's just kind of weird because what ammo do you put in it is a whole nother question. But yeah, that's why it's number 3 for me.
Yeah, I guess my quick take on that is that I think that took some significant nerfs on the auto control. I think the 308 MDR.
That's what I thought as well.
I used to have some issues with the recoil on that anyway, because the same thing for the 556 MDR, except the 556 MDR is fine. Whereas the 308 MDR had more recoil in the first place. Now I know a lot of people used to think it was basically the best gun in the game because it's so flexible and you can still use it with voodoo, whatever. And it was very snappy when you're using it on 6x on long range. But now with that much lower auto control stat, I'm not sure.
It's not really. It's like an AK now.
Yeah.
1.3 is not that great.
So we're gonna have to see how it feels.
Yeah.
I'm reserving judgment on it, but I'm not sure if it's gonna be as good as it used to be. I'm not sure. So I don't have it in my list. I don't have any full auto 308s actually in my list. The remaining two are both of that caliber though. My number two is the M1A,
Okay.
which for me is controversial because I'm an
Yes.
SR25 enjoyer. But the M1A has the good barters, and there's nothing been done to the SR25 around that
That's
that
true.
means you can actually buy it, and it means you can't replace it if it gets damaged. You just have to buy a new one. There's no lowers. Like it's
That's
I don't
true as
know.
well.
I feel like the SR's in
Yeah.
a rough spot. Like, you can buy the SAS really cheaply using the Wilstons from Mechanic, and you can do stuff to like it can get super low recoil, but there's ways that you can make the M1A work. Like, it's a heavy beast, but it feels good to shoot. Like, it's all right as long as you can get around the weight issues and some of the arm stamina stuff. Then basically just pop a Meldon and you're probably all right. So I think the M1A probably is going to be super good. I think it's like a routine 308 thrower once people are crafting M61 and then like stacking it over the top of bought M80. I think that's probably like the end game. It's like starting to get into the end game for me, in my opinion.
That's an interesting pick because it's not that great on some of its hidden stats, and maybe it's like, yeah, that's
Yeah,
good.
it's always had
But
crappy hidden stats. Like, it has always had terrible hidden stats. But
but
the thing about it is it gets to like, 3 recoil or something stupid. Like,
yeah,
it just it
yeah,
gets by far the lowest out of all of the guns in that caliber. It gets to like the lowest recoil by a long way, and it's that
it's
ends up making up for it somehow.
yeah, and I think the big thing what you said was the accessibility of it. I didn't really consider it's way more accessible,
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah, there's like 6 ways to get the gun. You can buy
right.
it, you can barter for the base, you can barter for the ABR one, which like no one does, but you can buy the SAS bit, you can buy the parts for it, you can buy the like it's just there's so many ways that you can get it. Um so yeah. How's your number two?
Number two went the MCX. MCX. I think that I don't think it makes like one. What as I'm going down my final picks, these are like what I think, as you said, speculation. Basically, what I think is going to be the best. What the RD was last swipe, right? What the mutant was last swipe. I think the MCX could be it. It's right now it's kind of cheaper to craft the ammo versus BP, and it's basically a very similar 7.62 by 39 BP round. It's very similar in its stats. It's got a lot of buffs. The MCX has been buffed probably like 3 to 4 times recently. Like, I think MCX supremacy is also going to be a thing. And yeah, you just hold mouse one and they die with AP ammo. Now, I wouldn't recommend the other ammos. You could maybe try to get M62 to work, but I feel like you're really testing the limits of it. And the gun's not exactly that cheap to like kit out. You budget MCX is kind of like iffy. So I think late wipe supremacy, that would be my number two spot, as like maybe it will see some play. Maybe.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's because I would love it to be the case, and I'm just not sure.
Yeah, right, right.
I'm just not sure if it will. And it all comes down to me the fact that you have to choose between M61 BP or 300 Blackout AP to craft. And yes, you
Yeah.
could do all three in theory, but this kind of is why I'm ending up driving my picks here, right? It's like the ammo availability is
Right.
really making a big difference, and the way that you use the MCX means that you
You
just won't be able to use
burn through
it,
the
right?
yeah, that's a good
That's the
point.
issue for me. That's the problem, and that's the reason why something like crafting SS190 doesn't make sense to me either, or BT rounds for the shrimp caliber. Just because with BP you can still kind of get away with like single tapping BP. Like, it works at range. Like, the MCX is not bad at range. Like, people think it's terrible. People think it's like subsonic or something, but it's like it's not. But it's about the same speed as BP.
Yeah.
But it's like the MCX is like a yeah, no, I don't know. It's been buffed a lot, so maybe it'll be okay now. I just feel like at close range, like, yeah,
Uh,
sure, it's really good, but I just think that
right.
the rate of fire on the gun, the way that you normally tend to use it, and the unavailability of the ammo. Like I can't actually remember exactly what the numbers are, like how many blackouts you get versus BPs and the times. I'm not
It's
sure.
crafting, I can tell you right now.
Yeah.
12
Okay.
hours for AP and 120 rounds.
And how much do you get for BP? 120 as well.
120 as well. Its BP would be 14 hours, so about the
It's
same.
about the same. It's about the same.
Yeah.
I just feel like the BP goes further. They do about the same
because it shoots
thing.
slower,
Because
essentially.
it shoots slower, and you tend to use BP in just like that slightly
No, I
different
get
way.
it.
Like the M6 is a bullet hose, so I don't know. It's tough. But I so hope it to be the case. Like I was really wishing it'd be the case. Like it's a shame because now the ammo's not on the traders. It's like makes it really tough.
I would say if you find a decent amount of AP, like let's say you've been hoarding some AP, and you're like, I want to give the MCX a go. You mod one out before you give it a go. Go ahead and craft some extra AP, and that way you could run it maybe 2 raids, and maybe bottom load 10 rounds of 6.2 M62, and then the top 20 are AP. But yeah, no, that you're bringing up very valid points here.
Yeah, I want it to work so badly, but I'm just not sure if it's going
sure.
to. I just don't know. We're gonna have to see.
No, I agree. Okay,
So
final one. What you got,
numero
Giga?
uno, number one for me. Number one for me, RSAS.
Yeah.
RSAS baby. I love the RSAS. So
Now,
I played a lot of RSAS last wipe, and it rocked. It absolutely rocked. Now
it is good.
the same reason as for the M1A, and this kind of comes into that. I didn't really talk about this with the M1A specifically, but I feel like the ammo conversation then works even better for the M1A. You're crafting M61, but you're firing it on semi. You fire on M61 on semi, it goes so much further than BP. It goes way further than Blackout AP, and it goes like miles further than SS190 and some of the SMG ammos, right? You just get way more for your money out for your time investment out of M61. And you can buy M80 from Peacekeeper 4, which I think is a solid choice to stack underneath. Like, I don't think there's any point. Can you buy M62? I think you can buy M62, so you can buy them all. I think you can buy M80, you can buy M62. M62 is like 4 times the price, so it's like whatever. Not that it really matters, but they're interchangeable as like buffer rounds basically underneath. So you can put the M61s in the top. You only need to do like 6 or 7 if you really want to min max it. And the thing about the RSAS is that the dog tags barter, especially late wipe, just keeps on giving. It's actually not that many, like eight of each. You can buy quite a few RSASs, and you get quite a lot out of the Moonshine case. Like I ended up not buying that many outright. Like I never really bought any RSASs last wipe. Just got loads out of Moonshine. Did a couple with the dog tag barters, and that was enough. That was enough for me. Just like the gun felt amazing. I don't know what it was about it. It's got one of the best like return to center times out of all of the 7.62 NATO weapons. It just feels super good. I've not used it this wipe again. This is why it's part of the speculative list. But I feel like it's not cheap, but using the barter and like when you get it for free out of Moonshine, I'm going to use it and feel good about myself. I think. And M6, I just think M61 is going to be the ultimate end game craft, just because it goes so far. How many did you get in an M61?
60.
Okay, so it's a lot less. And what's the
time? Well, it's probably going to be a little long if I had to guess. We're looking at 16 hours, 16 and a half hours, which
is long. It is long. You get half the ammo. I feel like.
Sorry, it's 80. It's 80. I said 60. It's
80 rounds. Okay, yeah. That's probably better. So you get a little better. Yes, you get 2/3 of the amount of rounds, but you're firing it on semi.
Yeah,
with a slightly longer craft. I feel like it makes sense.
It's a little pricey too, but as you said, it just it basically does not care about your armor. Armor is non-existent, so
just deletes everybody. So. No. I think M61 is the play, and pick your poison, right?
That's a good point.
Within that.
Yeah. All right.
So number one.
One.
Don't let it be the STM or something.
It's please. The STM. You already know. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. No, I went with the AK-101. And the reason why, I just think it is the overall best gun, no matter who you are. If you're a level 1 player, there's probably better options, but it's probably the most broad, generic gun to run that will be good. You can put multiple different calibers in it, or tiers of 5 So many numbers running in my head. You could put 56A1, M855, M85A1, honestly M995. Now that crafting is a regular thing, because this was the interesting thing that really caught me off guard actually when I was looking at this stuff. M995, you get 200 of it in the craft.
It's not that much, right?
And it's not quite that expensive. So this is the thing. For 16 hours, you get 200 rounds, and let's say your input is 200K. That's really easy math. 1,000 rubles a round, which is like half of the M61. I don't know. I just think it's like the fact that you get this is the big thing, is the fact that you get 200 means you could craft this overnight, come back, and now you got M995 to top load. Yes, the damage is a little low, but it's going to guarantee go through class 4, obviously. Guarantee go through class 5, I believe. 53, is that enough to guarantee, or is it still a roll in class 5? I think it's still a roll.
That's a guarantee. That's pretty much a guarantee class 5, yeah.
Okay. So, and the fact that, the 1-on-1, you can go all out on it, and it shoots slow. It has good recoil, good convergence, or you can do a Krebs build. Everything's now just a Krebs. Any AK, can it take does it accept the Krebs? Yes, it's good. It's just like the standard now. But even if you don't have access to Krebs, you can do the Zenit B10 and the that's one thing I like about the B10s or any of the Zenit handguards, is then you could put in the Zenit
B33 over the top.
Right. What is that? Receiver. I guess and it actually has pretty good stats, but you're obviously, using most cases a lesser handguard than you normally would use. But anywho, yep, that's kind of why I went the AK-101, just because I think it's, broadly speaking, is probably the most widespread across the different spectrum of players, probably one of the more better guns to pick from.
I think that's very fair. I think it's very fair. Yeah, I hadn't really thought about M905. That might actually answer my question of what to do next. Maybe M905 is the answer, But it's the damage, it's 42 damage. It's okay.
It's okay. Past 100 and maybe 150, 100 meters, it might be a little iffy for headshots. I had to pull up Tarkov ballistics to get that accurate information, but yeah.
Yeah, I guess I'm not really using it for that, so maybe it's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to think about it, but that's an interesting one. M905 is interesting, but yeah, it's very flexible gun, so I can see why you put it there. I think that could be a nice choice though. Could be a nice choice. I feel like often I end up just bundling M905 into just this is Chad ammo territory, and just never bothering with it and using other stuff, because who's going to hose down people with M905? You know what I mean? But the craft for 1,000 rubles, that's okay.
Which right. That could change. These are all,
of course.
Yeah, could easily change, right? But I guess some just quick takeaways. Honorable mentions: SVD, MP153. I had to take those off, but they were on there. And then, is the RPK, RD, and Mutant dead? Are these just dead guns? Because as you said with the RD and the Mutant, right? The RD is basically the same, on par with now an AK-103 in terms of its hidden stats. Now the mods are obviously different story, but a lot of the reason why the RD and the Mutant were supreme last fight was because of their, in my opinion, because of their hidden stats. Yes, they can take some of the best ammo in the game that was widely available. Yes, they can take some of the better attachments on them. And yes, they had some of the better hidden stats on them. But it just feels honestly, going through this process, I feel like BSG did a really good job balancing stuff, because the I think is kind of not that great. It got nerfed in a couple different places, and it's still okay, but the fact that it's so shaky and wobbly, it's why not just use something that's not shaky and wobbly? Even the Sega PP19 was almost gonna be on my list because how steady it was. And so I am really pleased that how much I feel like this is shaken up. Maybe we'll still see Mutant might be the one that might make the cut, but I'm not even sure, man. I'm not even sure.
I think they've done a really good job as well.
Yeah.
They seem to have taken out some like the initial like blast they did. I was like, oh, not sure. Like this is good, but no,
Right.
I'm not sure. But the tweaks that they've done afterwards is exactly what we were asking for.
Pretty
Like
well
it's super good.
Yeah.
Increasing the horizontal recoil on the UMP to like really high proportions. You can't buy the AP ammo just off the shelf anymore. So it's not just like I'll just run an ump,
Right.
and the AP ammo and just blast everyone. Doesn't work like that anymore. They did actually. It was a very hidden change. Like, hardly anyone spoke about it, but the 45 ammo actually got reduced in damage a little bit, like early on, like really
that's
in the early
right.
days of the patch. So it actually doesn't do quite as much damage as it did. So it's taken quite a few beatings. Like it's still good vertically, but it's the horizontals like kind of rough now on that gun. So I think it actually took the UMP actually also took a +6 vertical recoil base nerf as well. So yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, I do think the RPK has just been kind of forgotten about.
Yeah, and I don't know if they like did this intentionally, if they, like you said, they forgot about it, but I think it's actually dead. Like that, I was gonna start my list off and be like, oh yeah, let me get the RPK, because like I've always recommended that because it's usually been historically really good, but early wipe anyways. And now it's like, oh, it's not. It's just not.
Exactly. Just been forgotten about. So I think, we can forgive them for one or two oversights, whatever, and like some things dropping out of the meta. Like maybe the mutant will be meta, as you said, but I think that the ammo changes combined with what we've got here,
exactly,
it just like stems like each individual gun can be kind of like OP in a vacuum, but it's just like how much BP can you get, realistically, like how much do you want to use in each raid? It's got this whole extra overlay now of like, can you run it with the best ammo? If no, do you want to forgo 12 hours in your workbench to make it? It's like that choice now makes everything really tough.
For sure. And as you said, this to reiterate, the MCX on paper might be the best gun, but in practice, because the ammo is so scarce or whatever, the good ammo at least, it's just it makes this list so much harder, which is honestly why my number one was so average. You know what I mean? It's like the best average gun across the board. You can put so many different types of calibers into it, or armored different bullets within that caliber to do different things, except for flesh damage. I wish flesh damage was stronger, but
yeah, it's good. I like it being nuanced. It's much better now than it was before.
Absolutely. All right. So what do you want to do now, Giga? I think we're a bit over on time.
Yeah, I think we're a bit over on time. I think we're just gonna have to call it there.
Okay.
I guess the only thing, like, I did want to mention, I watched one of Airwing's shorts, which is super funny, and it was like, I can't, like, he was just like, oh, there's two guys they got a call out for like some stupid rock on Lighthouse, and he's just like, hey Tower, he's like, I got two guys there 550 meters away, the gun's 0 to like 450, because I think that's as high as the scope would go. He's just like, what holdover do I need? And Tower's just like, what gun, what ammo? And what does Airwing say? I can't remember. He's like
T5000,
T5000
M80 or whatever.
T5000 M80 or something. And he's just like 0.8 of a mil, 0.8 of a mil or whatever. And he like aims it there, just bump headshot. It's like insane. Honestly, insane. Tower's the legend. Tower's an absolute legend. Like I was blown away. I was actually blown away. It's so nuts. It's so nuts.
Yeah.
Oh god, that was it. I had to talk about it because I saw that one. I was just like, wow.
I really need to like get on Airwing. Like we need to like broaden that out. Like I was thinking, you take Tower, you guys go sniping, and then you just bring 3 different snipers, and you basically run Tower through the course, shooting at targets, and then and that would be the short. Anyways, all right, cool. Well, I enjoyed this cast. Hopefully you all did as well. It was a lot of fun doing this, and maybe we'll do more stuff like this in the future.
Yeah, sounds good. I think it's a good idea. Well done, Church. It was your idea, and you brought it up. So kudos to you.
Yep, and thanks again, everyone who tunes in for the podcast. The comments, the feedbacks, it's all much appreciated. And with that, we'll close it out, and we'll see you all next week.
See you guys later.